In a world of chaos, heroes are born. At just 12, Ji-young possessed a god-tier intellect, a genius who survived blood-soaked battlefields unarmed, capable of manipulating entire armies like chess pieces. His divine formations left superior forces weeping in despair. But fate had also birthed a terrifying rival, a monster whose single strike could cleave fortresses in two, leading the cult toward total Murim domination. They started as mere slave soldiers, fodder for the front lines. One relied on madness, the other on cold logic. While his rival indulged in a mindless massacre, Ji-young observed the flow of battle with icy precision. Instantly, the boy calculated the only path to victory, a total retreat. Only Big Un-ho sensed his brilliance. Realizing they had fallen into a trap, Un-ho rushed to warn the general, despite Ji-young's warnings of futility. Predictably, the stubborn commander exploded in rage at the mere suggestion of a tactical withdrawal. The general met the boy's advice with pure contempt, even threatening execution for such supposed cowardice. Only after the predicted slaughter began did Un-ho truly grasp the child's godlike foresight. Predicting the tragic annihilation of his own side, Ji-young survived by hiding beneath a mountain of corpses. Above, the Overlord's star blazed with divine light, marking the moment of his legendary birth. Legend says when that star appears, a master emerges to hold the world in his palm. Un-ho desired that destiny, but the heavens offered nothing. One must seize fate by force. Years passed, and the gears of destiny shifted as Ji-young joined a prestigious merchant escort. He urged the team to take the mountain trail, knowing the main road was a death trap. But his captain, blinded by jealousy of the boy's wit, chose the path of the infamous Aso bandits. Driven by spite, the leader ignored the genius's warning. Ji-young quietly prepared for the inevitable disaster. As the convoy moved forward, the young strategist calculated every variable of the coming ambush. Suddenly, a lethal rain of arrows blocked the sky. The Aso bandits had sprung their perfect trap. Panic took hold. The incompetent vice-captain ordered the cargo burned, hoping to escape while the world burned. They ran blindly into a dead end. Amidst the chaos, Ji-young remained a pillar of absolute calm. He commanded his loyal few to save the most valuable carriage, knowing it was their only bargaining chip. Preserving the treasure would soothe the bandits' wrath. Just as predicted, the outlaws surrounded them. With unwavering confidence, Ji-young demanded an audience with their leader, gambling on a secret from the past. The man before him was a mountain of muscle, the terrifying fortress lord, Wang Hu-sang, a former elite soldier who now commanded 500 cutthroats with a literal iron fist. In his hand was the severed head of their former captain. The rumors of his brutality were true. Yet, beneath the layer of a common tyrant, Ji-young sensed the lingering soul of a warrior. The lord's eyes burned with a primal rage, a remnant of his youthful struggle against injustice. His subordinates trembled. How could mere mercenaries have the courage to stand before such a monster? Wang Hu-sang tossed his blood-stained spears aside, his presence alone suffocating everyone in the clearing. He slumped onto his throne, eyes flickering like dying embers as he surveyed the captured prize. He tossed the captain's head toward them like a piece of worthless trash, a grim warning of fate. While others recoiled in horror, Ji-young's expression remained as cold as a winter's night. Following their lord's whim, the bandits hoisted the grim trophy onto a pole at the mountain pass. It was a brutal message to any who dared defy them, leaving the captives paralyzed with fear. The lord's gaze was a furnace of resentment as he questioned why any were left alive. His subordinate stammered, explaining that this group had begged for mercy using 4 specific reasons. He found Ji-young's audacity intriguing enough to bring him before the fortress master for judgment. Knowing his master's eccentric nature, the subordinate gambled on the boy's intellect to stave off execution. The fortress lord leaned in, eyes promising a slow death if the boy's words proved hollow. A crushing weight of killing intent fell upon Ji-young as the others held their breath in terror. Under the gaze of the Mountain King, the young genius finally opened his mouth to speak. With chilling composure, the protagonist delivers his first logic. If the city lord takes their lives, he gains nothing but wasted effort. This cold truth only fuels the lord's bloodlust. The air grows thick with a murderous aura that threatens to consume the room. Up until now, the lord has gained 0 profit, only Ji-young's blatant mockery. His patience is officially wearing paper thin. Yet, Ji-young remains unshaken. He boldly declares that if a mere threat stops them now, no one will ever reach Aso Mountain again. The room falls silent. Such a simple statement carries the weight of a mountain, striking a nerve within every warrior present. It was the Jiza escort team that betrayed the pact, refusing to pay the toll for crossing the legendary Aso peaks. If they admit defeat now, the rumors haunting Aso will only darken. Their name will be dragged through the mud of the Murim. Whispers in the underworld claim that even after paying the toll, the vicious bandits of Aso still slaughter travelers and steal their goods. These false accusations have tainted the sect's honor, making it impossible for them to conduct business with the outside world. Faced with these poisonous lies, the Lord of Aso can only grit his teeth in a silent, explosive fury. To these mercenaries, reputation is everything. Whether the rumors are true or false doesn't matter as long as their prestige is restored. Currently, the mighty Aso sect is trapped in its own mountain, forced into a corner by mere whispers and shadows. The Jisa guards travel across the entire continent. If these lies continue to spread, Aso's legacy will crumble into nothingness. Jianghu proposes a masterstroke. Spare them, and once they return, he will personally cleanse Aso's name across the land. A heavy silence descends. The logic is flawless. The city lord's interest is piqued, and he demands to hear the second reason. With a smirk of absolute confidence, Jianghu promises a mountain of gold. He guarantees a profit that no ruler could ignore. A subordinate recalls the chaos. While the traitorous guards set the goods ablaze, Jianghu was the only one fighting the flames. He risked everything to save the cargo. Without his quick thinking, the sect's treasures would be nothing but worthless charcoal. The most priceless artifacts were hidden on the third horse. Had Jianghu not acted, those treasures would have vanished into the wind. His silver tongue and undeniable evidence start to sway the Lord. The genius strategist is slowly weaving his web. But before revealing the final reason, Jianghu stops. He pierces the Lord with a sharp, calculating gaze that sees through everything. He asks the unthinkable. Does your heart not yearn for a higher seat among the 18 green forest camps? Gasps of shock echo through the hall. Everyone is frozen. Has this boy lost his mind, or is he truly a visionary? This audacity ignites the Lord's temper. Do you wish for death? I could tear your tongue out this instant. The 18 camps represent the pinnacle of bandit royalty, and the Lord's own brothers sit upon those prestigious thrones. As a man bound by ironclad loyalty, the Lord views the suggestion of betrayal as the ultimate sin against his kin. He refuses to step over the corpses of his brothers just to claim a higher rank for himself. Yet, Jianghu's intellect remains 5 steps ahead. While everyone else is panicking, he remains as cool as ice. In the middle of this life-or-death tension, he casually invites the Lord for a walk to enjoy the mountain air. The Lord stands, his fury so intense that the heavy chair beneath him shatters into 1,000 wooden splinters. He agrees to the walk, but with a deadly warning: any sign of trickery, and Jianghu's head will be his next trophy. To understand this genius, we must look back 30 days. To the era of the heavenly demons, the peerless monsters of the Murim. For 500 years, countless masters sacrificed their lives trying to unlock the forbidden heavenly demon arts. Yet all failed. That sacred place was nothing but a graveyard of ambition. Until one man defied the heavens and broke the half-millennium curse. Baek-un-ho. His very presence distorted the air, manifesting the terrifying aura of a soaring dragon behind him. Known as the man who walked the edge of the world, he stood alongside the Thunder Emperor of the Dark Heaven Army. He earned a title that struck fear into the hearts of all: the Heavenly Demon Blade Sovereign, a true god of war. Now, Baek-un-ho has returned. Under the watchful eyes of the masses, Jianghu and the Aso Lord walk together as equals. Only the Lord's loyal aide sees the truth. While others fled the fire, Jianghu stood his ground, proving he is no ordinary man. A mind this brilliant is a rare treasure. The Lord begins to realize that killing such a genius would be a monumental waste. He considers sparing the boy. The first reason was logical, but Jianghu's stubbornness is truly something else. The strategist insists on revealing his third and final reason, pushing his luck to the absolute limit. The Lord is speechless. Most would beg for life, but this boy demands to be heard, risking everything for his grand plan. He warns Jianghu to keep his mouth shut, yet the genius simply smiles. The final move in his game is about to begin. The stage is set. The third reason is about to change the fate of the Aso sect and the Murim forever. Lord Aso's gaze revealed everything. Deep within those dark pupils, a bottomless hunger for power flickered like a dying flame. Exposed and shaken, the Lord's composure cracked. His killing intent flared once more, suffocating the very air in the room. One more strange word, he hissed, and your head will roll across this floor before you can even blink. Demanding the final reason, the Lord grew impatient. But Jin Yong remained calm, first laying down a non-negotiable condition. Though unsure if he could grant such a request, Aso leaned in, captivated by the young man's mysterious confidence. The porters were doomed. If they returned now, the escort team would discard them like useless trash without a second thought. After all, the wealthy only hire those willing to trade their lives for luggage. Aso anticipated a demand for riches. He expected Jin Yong to beg for loot. Instead, the young strategist bowed his head with profound, calculated sincerity. He requested only the meager wages of the manager and the fallen guards to return to their grieving families. Jin Yong didn't care for gold or treasures. He only wanted the worthless corpses of those who had perished in battle. The Lord fell silent, staring at the shimmering stars above. A heavy question escaped his lips into the cold night air. "Do you know of the Overlord Star?" he asked. "Thousands pray to it daily, desperate to bask in its legendary light." Aso was curious. Could a genius like Jin Yong, who manipulated the board so effortlessly, dream of such celestial heights? Does he crave the throne of the Overlord? Jin Yong remained silent, his expression an unreadable mask of humility. He claimed to be a man with nothing, avoiding such grand delusions. He merely sought a quiet, peaceful life of survival. Finally, they were permitted to leave. Walking into the pouring rain, the weight of their near-death encounter began to fade. Their only goal was simple: to live another day and eat their fill. But Jin Yong's strategy was far deeper. That third reason he gave the Lord was a masterstroke. He had felt the hunger locked inside Aso's ambitious heart. By dangling the right bait, he had shaken the Lord's very foundation. Back in the fortress, Aso remained lost in thought. He knew he lacked the raw power of his sworn brothers in the Green Forest sect. But Jin Yong's words echoed. The 18 branches were crumbling from within. Internal strife and constant bickering had left the great sect vulnerable and fractured. Soon, they would split into 2 warring factions. Jin Yong's proposal was simple. Aso must become the ultimate mediator. Since Aso Fortress sat on neutral ground, no one suspected him. He was the perfect shadow to bridge the divide. By exploiting the sect's weaknesses, this insignificant fort could become its heart. They would trust his every word blindly. To seize this chance, Aso was willing to betray his hollow brotherhood. This revelation terrified even his most loyal attendant. For years, the Lord had buried his greed in the deepest abyss. Yet, a few words from Jin Yong unearthed it. The boy had cracked his resolve with surgical precision. Aso whispered the name repeatedly, etching it into his very soul. Jin Yong. The youth had demanded he remember that name until their paths crossed again in the uncertain future. A chill ran through the air. Jin Yong's gaze was unwavering, his final warning ringing louder than the thunder above. "When we meet again, our positions will be reversed," he had declared. "I will be the one holding your life." He promised to spare the Lord then, returning this favor. That was the 4th reason. Never forget the name Jin Yong. The Lord laughed like a madman, his voice echoing through the storm. The Overlord Star reached its peak brightness above. He had watched that star for 11 long years. Grabbing Jin Yong's shoulder, he made a vow that sealed their fates. If he rose to lead the Green Forest, he would grant Jin Yong one request. A legendary alliance was born. Meanwhile, the war between the Martial Alliance and the demonic cult loomed. A conflict of total annihilation was fast approaching. It was all moving according to Jin Yong's grand design. His vision stretched far beyond the horizon of mortal men. The attendant lamented, letting such a genius walk away. But the Lord knew he couldn't chain a dragon like him. Jin Yong was simply too powerful. As the star blazed directly over the youth's head, a realization struck the Lord. This was no mere mortal. Jin Yong was the one the Overlord's star had truly chosen to rule the Murim. Elsewhere, a peaceful lake began to churn violently. A massive vortex formed at its center, radiating an oppressive energy. There stood Baekon Ho, his aura exploding in waves. He had always cursed the timing of his own birth. Born 3 years before the star appeared, he felt cheated. But now, he shattered a massive boulder with one kick. It was exactly as Jin Yong had predicted. It takes years for humanity to witness the star's true formation and power. Those born just before its arrival could still harness its essence. Eun-ho felt the energy of an overlord rising. With burning determination, he vowed to transcend his lowly rank. The path to becoming a legend had finally begun. "The Overlord has arrived," Unho's aura radiates a terrifying, kingly pressure that dominates the shore. Gazing at the stars, he smirks. He believes the heavens exist only to witness his grand ascent. In the desolate silence, a voice whispers, "Master, you've finally done it. The long seclusion is over." After 3 years of training, Unho has mastered the heavenly demon's legacy within that cave. Plotting their next mysterious move, they vanish. The era of the heretic cult begins this very night. The cult's reign starts. Meanwhile, the new generation, the 5 dragons and 3 phoenixes, finally emerges. 8 peerless beauties and 12 young prodigies rule the Murim. One girl stands among them all. Disguised as a man, she hides her identity. She is the legendary sword phoenix of the martial world. High in the trees, 2 figures watch like deities. The sword phoenix, He Danghua, waits silently. Even as a man, her beauty is breathtaking. She knows every secret within the vast martial world. Facing the Sichuan warriors and the distant heretic cult, she smiles. A storm is brewing on the peaks. For 100 years, she has thwarted the cult 12 times. Her confidence is a sharp blade. Suddenly, a massive, imposing figure appears by her side. It is her comrade in this coming war. Bound to the same fate, they prepare for battle. Their destination is the heart of Sichuan's chaos. They must hurry to arrive by nightfall. Every second counts to stop the cult's sudden advance. But the veteran uncle disagrees. He believes the cult won't arrive so soon. There is no rush. He suggests scouting for infiltrators instead. Cult spies may already be lurking within their very borders. She agrees to search for traces. Meanwhile, at a nearby tavern, a different kind of legend sits. Jianghu sits with his fellow porters, recently fired by a jealous leader who feared his brilliance. Now unemployed and cast aside, Jianghu remains calm. The mention of Fort Aso changes everything. Outside, the Sword Phoenix and her uncle listen. Jianghu already predicted this entire betrayal. The new leader has hated him for years. Any petty excuse was enough to exile the genius. The old porters are confused. Why throw away such talent? Only Jianghu knows the real truth. His 2000 IQ mind was a threat. To the weak, high intellect is a terrifying weapon. Suddenly, Jianghu is startled. The table is covered in rare delicacies he never expected to see. These humble workers spent their savings just to treat their genius friend to one last grand meal. They owe him their lives. To them, Jianghu isn't just a porter, he is their ultimate savior. The spies realize these aren't ordinary men. They are survivors of the cursed Fort Aso path. Rumors say every elite escort was wiped out. Only these lowly porters returned to tell the tale. The Sword Phoenix deduces the secret. This group survived the impossible because of Jianghu's hidden mind. Fort Aso's lord spared them for 4 absurd reasons. The spies are shocked by this revelation. The porters beg for more details. What were the final 2 reasons that saved their lives? They only knew the third. The Lord of Aso becoming the master of 18 green forests. Jianghu's gaze turns sharp. "Forget everything you heard," he commands. A heavy silence fills the room. In this cruel Murim, knowledge is a poison. To know too much is to invite certain death. The air grows cold. Suddenly, someone overhears everything. A hand pulls back the tavern curtain. The Sword Phoenix reveals herself. She has witnessed Jianghu's brilliant deduction from the shadows. The porters freeze in shock. She offers a fortune in gold for information on the fort's lord. All eyes turn to Jianghu. He sets down his chopsticks, his mind already calculating the outcome. He suggests moving to a private place. But first, he demands she pay for his friend's feast. He secures a grand meal for his colleagues. He's already realized she is an Alliance secret agent. He identifies her companion as the 5th squad leader. His intellect pierces through their disguises instantly. He knows the Alliance is mobilizing against the heretic cult. Every hidden motive is clear to him. The Phoenix is desperate to know. How did a mere porter manipulate the Lord of Aso? She cuts to the chase. "Tell me how you survived, and I will pay any price. Reveal your secrets regarding the Aso Lord, and I shall grant your most decadent desires. Endless riches are yours for the taking." Truly, gold has never been so easily acquired. Yet Jianghu's men continue to bleed in the shadows, trading their lives for mere copper coins. The Phoenix quickly pivots back to reality. The great war between justice and evil looms near. Amidst the rising storm, the Green Forest stronghold remains a wild card, undecided on their allegiance. 10,000 ruthless bandits wait. Their choice will shift the very foundations of this bloody war. Such critical intel cannot be surrendered lightly. Jian sharpens his wits for the ultimate play. A sudden gamble is proposed. The hulking guard protests, sensing a trap in the making. But the Sword Phoenix is intrigued. I accept your wager. Let the games begin. The rules are simple. 2 souls in 1 room. A contest of endurance and strong liquor. Ignoring all warnings, her pride takes the bait. She thrives on the thrill of the challenge. With a sharp command, her guards retreat. She enters the lion's den with absolute confidence. Confident in her iron liver, she seeks the secrets of Aso Fortress through this liquid duel. Jar after jar vanishes. Neither yields. It is a battle of wills masked by drunken laughter. Her face flushes crimson as the grain spirit bites. Jian's resilience catches her completely off guard. Jian feigns exhaustion, admitting defeat. A tactical retreat to lure his opponent into a false security. Slurring his words, he spins a web of lies. A master manipulator guarding his deepest secrets. He collapses beneath the table. Half awake, the Phoenix senses something is deeply amiss here. She realizes it was all a ruse. Escaping Aso Fortress cannot be that simple. Fury erupts within her. To be played so blatantly by a mere man is an insult. She yearns to prove her worth to her father. Failure means returning home to mockery. Dark thoughts swirl. Should she end Jian's life here to vent her mounting frustration? As she debates his fate, the world spins. Her senses fail as the alcohol finally conquers. Boom! Her head hits the wood. The tavern owner enters, looking like a pig demon descendant. He stares in shock at the carnage. Are these 2 legendary figures actually dead or just drunk? A woman peeks from behind him, suggesting they call a funeral director just in case. The floor is a graveyard of empty jars. The sheer volume of alcohol is truly terrifying. The owner cares only for the unpaid bill. He tosses them into 1 room to save space. Meanwhile, at the Murim Alliance, the Sichuan clan stands guard over the contested borderlands. For a century, the Peerless Alliance has failed to breach the Sichuan clan's impenetrable defense. Their fall would shatter the Murim world. The demon cult has waited decades for this moment. A dark master plan unfolds. They seek to turn this fortress into a demonic gateway. Glowing red eyes emerge from beneath the floorboards. The shadows themselves have come alive. Caught completely off guard, the Sichuan warriors realize the enemy is already among them. Unho leads the charge, followed by a sea of black-clad assassins from the depths. 30 years of preparation culminate in this strike. The heart of the alliance is under siege. With a cruel smirk, Unho signals the slaughter. His shadows vanish into the night. Their speed is supernatural. If Sichuan falls, the rest of the Murim world is next. Unho intends to fracture their unity, conquering each sect one by one through chaos. He looks to the stars, seeing his destiny reflected in the cold, bright light above. The gates are torn open. His elite guard has already cleared the path with blood. Reports flood in. Every security post leading to the Blood Pavilion has been neutralized. No obstacles remain. The path to total domination is paved with the corpses of enemies. 3 years of infiltration have paid off. His spies have mapped every inch of this fortress. Their loyalty is absolute. They offer their very lives for Unho's dark and grand vision. Our protagonist, Unho, stands before the gates, wearing a smirk of calculated triumph. This bastion belongs to the Sichuan sect's leader. Yet Unho's brilliant mind has already found its flaws. He strides toward the invincible fortress, determined to orchestrate its grand downfall tonight. Above, 2 celestial beings watch, baffled by his unwavering, almost terrifying level of confidence. Is it mere arrogance, or a psychological ploy to survive against impossible odds in the Murim? To one, it looks like an unbreakable shield. But the red-haired fairy remains skeptical. She wonders, what happens when the genius's perfect armor finally shows a single crack? Inside, 5 elite warriors block his path, their massive frames casting shadows under the moonlight. They aim to crush any late-night intruder, but Unho's steady gaze never wavers as he approaches. "Halt! State your name and rank," they roar, trying to intimidate the lone strategist. Unho grins. "Since you're so curious, I'm the captain of the Heavenly Wolf team, the personal blade of the Heavenly Demon himself." His words strike them like a physical blow. They freeze in disbelief. Could this young man truly be the legendary guard of the cult? Ignoring their shock, Unho settles his stance. The pleasantries are over. The massacre begins now. His nonchalant attitude infuriates the guards. How dare a mere boy mock the Sichuan sect's elite? To be the leader's closest protector and be belittled like this? Their pride burns with rage. If you want my head, come get it, Unho taunts. I'm on a very tight schedule. A blonde warrior senses something off. A genius like Unho wouldn't walk into a trap alone. He's here to dismantle this fortress from the inside out, playing a game they can't comprehend. Terrified, they ring the emergency bells. The demonic cult is here. Alert the entire sect. Unho's eyes turn cold as steel. He grips his hilt, his killing intent flooding the air. In a blur of godlike speed, he vanishes, reappearing behind them before they can even blink. 2 clean arcs of silver light follow. The first 2 guards fall, their defenses utterly useless. 1 fluid motion, 1 lethal strike per man. He carves through them like a hot knife through butter. 5 elites, dead in seconds. How dull, he mutters, eyes fixed on the massive central tower. This is where the real chess match begins. The heart of Sichuan's decade-long reign of power. With a surge of adrenaline, Unho launches himself into the air, a shadow against the moon. He hopes the Blood Moon Master provides at least a decent warm-up for his superior intellect. He immediately senses a presence in the shadows. Come out, he commands, his voice echoing. Suddenly, the doors explode outward. A mountain of a man bursts through in a primal fury. Draped in furs and wielding a massive blade, his eyes glow with a murderous crimson light. He lunges with savage intent, his heavy weapon whistling through the air to crush the intruder. This warm welcome brings a smile to Unho's face. Finally, a pawn worth moving. He dances backward, dodging the savage swings of a beast, defending its sacred territory. Every ferocious strike is met with a calm, calculated parry. Unho reads his every move. The guard's brute force is countered by pure skill, sending the giant reeling back, gasping for air. Before he can recover, Unho is already above him, delivering a devastating downward strike. The floor shatters as the guard barely blocks the blow, his knees buckling under the pressure. Unho leaps again, his blade radiating a dark, suffocating aura that drowns the entire room. The guard braces for impact, his sword trembling as it meets Unho's overwhelming spiritual might. His feet sink deep into the stone floor. The weight of the attack is truly monstrous. The sheer force blasts the warrior back, yet a manic grin spreads across his battle-worn face. "You're strong," he roars. Around them, the very architecture of the tower begins to crumble. Unho realizes this isn't just any guard. This is the legendary Blood Moon Sword himself. A cold smile forms. "Thank you for showing up. I've been looking for you." This was the master key to his effortless conquest of the Murim world. Even before the duel officially began, the enemy was already baited into a reckless rage. Gritting his teeth, he tightened his grip, desperate to prove why the Sichuan clan was known as an impenetrable fortress. The unyielding sword swore he would take Unho's head. But suddenly, a massive bell echoed through the air, shattering the opponent's focus. That sound was the signal Unho had been waiting for. His shadows had moved. That tolling bell meant his elite Black Moon assassins had already seized the Sichuan heartland. The main force stood ready to strike at any given second. With cold, absolute confidence, Unho knew this was the day the Sichuan legacy would turn to ash. His blade pulsed with a devastating aura, dark energy coiling around the steel like a starving predator. Even Unho himself seemed to emanate a godlike pressure. Seeing such overwhelming power manifest before his eyes, the unyielding sword realized his inevitable doom. There was no escape, no path to victory left anymore, but his eyes burned with a final, desperate resolve. He would not surrender his life without a bloody struggle. With a single, earth-shattering stomp, he braced himself. He raised his razor-sharp blade, preparing to unleash every ounce of his martial prowess. He clung to a sliver of hope that against a monster like Unho, only the forbidden ghost arts could prevail. But fate offered no mercy as their weapons clashed in a violent eruption. Sparks flew like dying stars as Unho's raw dominance crushed his opponent, driving the unyielding sword deep into the broken earth. Unho's gaze turned feral, savoring the thrill of the slaughter as his blade shattered the enemy's steel into 1,000 pieces. A single, decisive strike tore through the Grandmaster's defenses. Even the grand pagoda behind them crumbled under the sheer weight of Unho's technique. At last, he had crushed the heart of the Murim alliance, leaving only ruin. Now, the final stage of the heavenly cult's total domination was within reach. As the morning sun rose high over the scorched battlefield, the sword phoenix was still lost in sleep. But remembering the commander's strict 10 a.m. deadline, she forced her heavy eyelids open. However, her blood ran cold the moment she saw the scandalous scene before her eyes, finding herself tangled in the same bed as Jianghu, who was still snoring like a dead man. Panic surged when she realized she was completely naked, only to remember her own habit of sleeping nude. Exhaling in relief, to protect her reputation from scandalous rumors, Phoenix Sword raised her palm, radiating a cold, murderous intent. She prepared to strike a lethal blow to silence the witness. But as her hand descended toward his face, she froze. That handsome face stopped her cold. Last night, both had succumbed to a drunken stupor, leaving Jianghu completely oblivious that they had shared a bed. She gritted her teeth, realizing she lacked the justification to strike him. Phoenix Sword withdrew her hand, admitting her own obsession with extracting information led to this disaster. After a moment of silence, she vowed not to let Jianghu escape for his daring deception. Yet, seeing that strikingly handsome face snoring away softened her rage. She decided on a different revenge. He would pay for last night's premium wine, a debt that would keep a lowly porter struggling for a lifetime. After striking his pressure points to ensure 2 more hours of deep sleep, she quickly donned her male disguise. With one final look, she vanished into the morning mist, hoping to never see Jianghu's annoying face again. Meanwhile, Eunho sat amidst the ruins, regulating his internal energy. Suddenly, thick plumes of black smoke erupted from his body, coiling into a majestic and terrifying black dragon. The beast soared with overwhelming power, as his eyes flashed with malevolent light. Forming a hand seal, he began a forbidden technique immediately. He absorbed the essence of the sun and moon, replenishing the massive power he had expended earlier. His subordinate stepped forward to report that the grand plan was proceeding exactly as orchestrated. Not a single millimeter was out of place. Only through such perfection could their conquest remain on schedule. Gazing at the tower cleaved in two, he saw the perfect omen for his impending invasion. A satisfied, twisted smile crept across his lips. Such a scene of desolation perfectly matched his dark aesthetic. After sleeping like a log, Jianghu finally forced himself up, yawning through a heavy, alcohol-induced haze. Memories of the Ao fortress surfaced, sparking a sudden dread. Had he leaked any classified secrets while intoxicated? Scanning the room, the sword phoenix was gone. Our genius strategist realized he'd been played. Using a drinking game to protect secrets? His brilliant calculation had failed spectacularly. The phoenix's tolerance was legendary. Fear gripped him. Was his web of lies finally unraveling? Even a child wouldn't buy his pathetic story. His mask of deception had completely shattered. Burdened with a massive debt, he frantically searched his ragged robes for any scrap of coin. Only 4 silver remained, his precious life savings intended for finding his lost family. Every copper was vital for survival while he planned his next move in the shadows. Fate was testing him. The shopkeeper approached, and panic flickered across our protagonist's face. The moment of reckoning arrived. The owner stepped in, ready to claim his pound of flesh. With a predatory grin, the man demanded payment, sensing the young strategist's desperate situation. The debt was astronomical. Jae-yun's face drained of color as his 2000 IQ mind raced. He cursed the sword phoenix for abandoning him. But then the owner dropped a bombshell. She hadn't ditched him. She'd left a gold ingot and a specific gift for him. Unexpected wealth rained down. Even a genius brain needs a moment to process such luck. 100 silver banknote appeared. To a pauper, it looked like a divine treasure. He stared in awe. This single slip of paper represented power he'd never held before. He walked away in a daze, calculating why the phoenix would grant him such a fortune. Suspicion flared. Did she buy his silence regarding the secrets of Ao Fortress? As Jaeon muttered over his windfall, a sharp-eyed noodle vendor cut through his thoughts. That kind of gold comes with a price, she warned, noticing his suspicious behavior. No coin falls from heaven without strings. In Murim, every gift is a potential trap. She cautioned him heavenly windfalls often lead straight to an early grave. The strategist froze. Had his drunken slip-up traded his life for a pile of silver? His mind reeled back to the night before. What world-shattering secrets had he spilled? Hide it, the old woman urged. Vultures were already circling the scent of his fortune. Even she felt the pull of greed, yet she knew better than to challenge him. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. A thunderous march signaled the arrival of true Murim power. An elite battalion appeared, led by 5 masters whose presence commanded the very air. The Murim alliance had arrived. 850 warriors, sharp as drawn blades. Experts from Jianghu and Kunlun sects marched alongside the mysterious secret art squad. Jianghu analyzed the numbers. They were gathering for a total war against the demonic cult. He remembered the Phoenix's words. She was a key piece in this grand martial game. Somewhere in that sea of steel, she was moving toward the Sichuan battlefield. The vendor pointed toward the horizon. A strange figure was stumbling through the dust. A ragged silhouette appeared, limping toward the army with a tattered flag in hand. It was a nun, gasping for breath, desperately chasing the tail of the alliance march. She finally caught up, her face a mask of relief and hidden desperation. Jaeyeon's genius eyes caught at a subtle detail that others would surely miss. A fresh sword wound, and a gaze burning with a cold, venomous intensity. Something was wrong. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a prelude to a disaster. He moved instinctively. The strategist knew a dark plot was unfolding before his eyes. The vendor tried to stop him, urging the boy to finish his meal first. But Jaeyeon didn't hear her. He was already chasing the scent of a conspiracy. There they were, sect leader Jianghu, and the legendary undefeated sword of Kunlun. Alongside them stood the secret art leader and the sword phoenix, heading into danger. Seeing the nun's frantic approach, the secret squad leader suspected an Sect disciple was arriving. Yet the flag she clutched belonged to the Sichuan Martial Arts Alliance, a puzzling, contradictory sight. Gasping for air, the exhausted woman desperately sought the legendary invincible sword of the Kunlun sect. She seized a water canteen, drinking with the primal intensity of someone snatched from death's door. Her wretched, starved appearance signaled to everyone that a catastrophe had surely befallen the Murim world. With her throat finally cleared, she cried out a plea for help against a dire, looming threat. The demonic cult had ambushed the MI forces deep within the treacherous mountain passes of Sichuan. Trapped 100 miles south, she was the only one who escaped to find the alliance. Panic filled her voice as she recounted the pre-dawn massacre amidst the jagged, unforgiving terrain. Hidden within the shadows of the rocks, the cult's elite assassins remained invisible until they struck. These masters of stealth neutralized every scout before a single alarm could ever be raised. Over 600 cultists, double the Ime's strength, swarmed them like a relentless tide of shadow. Acting on her master's final command, she fled in tears to find any hope of reinforcements. Invincible Sword froze in shock. How could the cult bypass his entire intelligence network so easily? The nightmare deepened as she revealed the leader. The infamous Heavenly Demon General, Big Un-ho. Dread spread through the room upon hearing that the MI sect leader had already been defeated. The Jianghu clan leader seethed, realizing the cult was finally launching a full-scale invasion of China. Memories of a humiliating defeat years ago resurfaced, leaving a stain on the alliance's pride forever. Fueled by a burning rage for vengeance, the Kunlun masters prepared to reclaim their lost honor. They split into 2 strike teams, one heading for Sichuan while the other prepared for Emi. But before they could move, a calm voice cut through the tension, stopping everyone in their tracks. Jianghu, who had been observing from the shadows, finally revealed himself to the startled crowd. Sword Phoenix's eyes widened in annoyance at the sight of the man who kept interfering. She demanded to know why this lowly porter was disrupting a critical council of war. Jianghu ignored the glares, casually stepping into the spotlight despite the urgent, life-or-death situation. He turned to Sword Phoenix, nonchalantly asking about the charity money she had bestowed on him. A massive guard stepped forward, threatening to crush the boy for his blatant lack of respect. Jianghu pressed on, questioning why she had given him exactly 100 silver taels earlier. The mention of such a massive sum sent ripples of shock through the elite martial masters. The guard roared for silence, but it was too late. The room was already buzzing with suspicion. "I gave it out of pity," she hissed, "so you'd stop your pathetic life of scamming." Jianghu let out a relieved sigh. At least he hadn't revealed his genius while drunk. Sword Phoenix's rage boiled over as she vowed to kill him if he ever appeared again. Yet Jianghu wasn't a man to take charity. He declared he would repay the debt soon. He promised to save Sword Phoenix's life, a claim that made the proud warrior scoff. How could a mere porter save a master? The crowd looked at him like a madman. Ji Young's gaze turned cold as he claimed he would save everyone present from impending doom. The nuns stared in disbelief, wondering if this boy had truly lost his mind to arrogance. These were legendary warriors. They had no need for protection from a commoner like him. But then, Ji Young pointed a sharp finger directly at the nun's trembling, pale face. "That woman is an impostor," he declared, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. The nun flinched, cold sweat pouring down as the genius's gaze pierced through her thin disguise. Seeing she was caught, the spy lunged forward, striking Ji Young with a lethal, high-damage palm. Ji Young collapsed instantly, wailing in exaggerated agony as he hit the hard ground below. The assassin stood frozen in confusion. She hadn't even used any internal power in her strike. Sword Phoenix sensed the deception and blocked the strike with her palm. She questioned her own instincts for saving Ji Young from the nun's attack. Claiming Emmy disciples don't strike the weak, she masked her true reflex. The fake nun panicked, calling Ji Young a lunatic to hide her error. A thunderous command echoed as Invincible Sword ordered everyone to step back. He drew his legendary blade, pressing the cold steel against Ji Young's neck. Ji Young remained unfazed, his genius brain calculating every possible outcome calmly. "Speak," the master growled. "Why do you claim this woman is fake?" Ji Young smirked, beginning his masterclass in psychological warfare and Murim deduction. His words planted seeds of doubt, halting the enemy's treacherous rescue trap. The impostor trembled in fury as her secret plan began to unravel. The Dokgo leader watched the drama unfold with eyes full of suspicion. He accused Ji Young of being a spy sent to delay their movements. Ji Young pointed out the nun's first fatal flaw: her unnatural, calm thirst. "You ran miles, yet you drink water with total peace? Impossible. No true disciple would be this relaxed while their sect faces slaughter." When she claimed she ran 100 miles, Ji Young simply laughed aloud. "Stop lying. I have 7 more reasons why you are a fraud." The crowd gasped. The panicked nun urged them to kill Ji Young immediately. Ji Young's eyes turned sharp, dissecting her lie about the 600 victims. A panicked survivor cannot count exact enemy numbers during a bloody ambush. Fear blinds the mind. One only sees a tide, not a ledger. Reason 3. The Sichuan master would never send a runner on foot. "Your story is a joke," he mocked, crushing her fabricated narrative easily. A famous master wouldn't rely on a messenger running 100 miles. Her face turned pale as she claimed she volunteered for the mission. "Liars don't use horses or letters. That is not how Murim works. Even a carrier pigeon is faster than your pathetic, slow-moving legs." His logical assault left her speechless, her teeth grinding in pure rage. Reason 4. Ji Young pointed to her back, which was suspiciously clean. "Wounded in front but clean behind? That is self-harm, not a pursuit." Sweat dripped from her brow as her facade crumbled under his gaze. "Prove it," Ji Young demanded. "Recite the sacred scriptures of the Ma. A true nun would know the holy texts better than her name." He gave her a chance. She began to chant generic Buddhist prayers. She rattled off common mantras, hoping to fool the masters present there. Ji Young cut her off. "Shut up. You just proved your own guilt. A real Ma nun would never use scripture to win a petty argument. It's sacrilege. A true believer would have been insulted, not compliant." Reason 5. Her every action was a mockery of the martial arts world. The impostor was trapped, outsmarted by a youth superior 2,000 IQ intellect. Invincible Sword was now intrigued. "Tell me, what is the 6th reason?" Her scalp is dark. She shaved it recently to mimic a nun. And her wound? It's shallow, self-inflicted by a right-handed amateur spy. Finally, she is alone. The master stood stunned by Ji Young's brilliant deduction. A massive crack has appeared in this perfect deception. The sect's very survival now hangs by a fragile thread. Normally, they would send multiple messengers to ensure the news arrived safely. Yet she claimed to be alone. That single slip of the tongue has become her undoing, a fatal mistake born from her own arrogance. This entire scenario was a grand stage, a lethal trap designed to lead them all into a cage. Their strategy was simple: divide and conquer. Split the Murim forces between Ma and Sichuan to crush them. But Ji Young's deduction skills put even the greatest investigators to shame, exposing the hidden truth at last. The traitor screams in desperation, begging for trust while accusing Ji Young of weaving nothing but lies. The Invincible Sword has heard enough. He roars with authority, commanding the Viper to silence her venomous tongue. Looking into her eyes, he sees no grief for her fallen comrades, only the cold gaze of a predator. The mask is shattered. Her perfect scheme, ruined by the sheer intellect of a man she totally underestimated. Consumed by murderous rage, she draws a hidden blade, determined to take Jianghu to the grave with her. Suddenly, the phoenix sword flashes through the air. Steel clashes against steel as the lethal strike is parried. The traitor snarls in frustration. Why must this woman always interfere with her grand designs for chaos? Fearing for Jianghu's safety, the phoenix sword pushes him back before engaging the assassin with lightning speed. With a single, devastating move, she shatters the traitor's weapon into 1,000 useless iron shards. A powerful palm strike sends the spy spiraling backward, coughing up a spray of deep crimson blood. Even as she collapses, she sneers. "You are all doomed. None shall escape the heavenly demon's reach." The snake finally shows its tail, a high-level mole of the demonic cult. The leader's fury explodes instantly. He lunges forward like a storm, his aura radiating a terrifying pressure that suffocates everyone in the vicinity. Realizing escape is impossible, the spy swallows a hidden poison pill, ending her life before the sword strikes. "Our eyes are everywhere," she curses. "Anyone who obstructs the great plan will meet a gruesome end." Dark blood spills from her lips as she falls. The high-level operative is dead before she hits the ground. The silence is heavy. Her dying words haunt the minds of everyone present, and Jianghu looks troubled. He stands there drenched in sweat. No one predicted she would choose suicide over being taken alive. Since her mission to divide the sects failed, she chose the path of total self-destruction instead of surrender. Jianghu sits in a daze, his face pale. He realized he just painted a massive target on himself. By dismantling the cult's master plan, he has guaranteed they will hunt him to the ends of the earth. "My big mouth is going to be the death of me," he sighs, regretting his own brilliant display. "That mouth of yours just saved hundreds of lives." The phoenix sword shouts, her voice suddenly sounding feminine. Realizing her mistake, she quickly covers her mouth, her eyes wide with shock at revealing her true voice. Jianghu just stares blankly. "It was obvious you were a woman from the start," he says deadpan. Seeing her flustered state, he waves it off calmly. He has no interest in her secrets or gender. With those features, only a fool would be deceived. He wasn't looking for a fight over her identity. She has saved his life twice today, and for that, he feels a rare sense of genuine gratitude. But she shakes her head. In her eyes, Jianghu is the hero who saved their entire army. Jianghu refuses the praise, claiming it was just fate and perhaps worth the gold he was paid. The phoenix sword vows to repay this debt, promising to be the shield that guards his life hereafter. Suddenly, the sect leader appears. "If you wish to survive the cult, you must come with us." It is an offer most would kill for, yet Jianghu rejects it without a second of hesitation. The sect leader is visibly stunned. He cannot believe a lone wanderer would decline such prestigious protection. Jianghu remains firm, asserting he can handle his own safety before turning to walk away alone. "Wait!" the sect leader calls out, his voice now carrying a desperate weight of sincere respect. Jianghu pauses. The leader drops the formalities and goes straight to the core of his request. He recognizes a strategic mind that surpasses any military advisor he has ever encountered in the Murim. He immediately tries to recruit Jianghu, wanting this genius to lead his faction to total domination. On this perilous path, becoming a strategist for a renowned sect or the martial alliance would bring Jianghu immense wealth. He might even unlock secret martial arts, yet his face turns pale as he remembers the demonic cult's terrifying leader. The heavenly demon blade lord, Baikun Ho, is a monster of unparalleled cruelty and genius who haunts his memories. Jianghu recalls their first meeting years ago. Back then, the monster was just a boy with a radiant, innocent smile. He introduced himself as Unho, and to Jianghu, he seemed like nothing more than an ordinary kid without any power. Years have passed, and that boy has transformed into the heavenly demon, a name that now makes the world tremble. To face him now would be suicide. Jianghu is a mere commoner who cannot guarantee his own survival for even a second. For 6 long months, Jianghu witnessed Unho's path of destruction across battlefields turned into oceans of fire. A hidden spark of defiance flickers in his heart, a deep desire to challenge that monster one day. But today is not that day. Jianghu flatly rejects the offer, refusing to be pulled into the Murim's bloody conflicts. His sole objective is survival. He wants to disappear and keep his head attached to his shoulders at all costs. However, the sect leader's persistent invitation is relentless. forcing the genius strategist into a deep, silent contemplation. Suddenly, the Phoenix Sword brings up the 100 silver pieces she previously lent him as an act of charity. She adds the tabs for expensive wine and lavish feasts enjoyed by Jianghu's former comrades to his growing debt. The total far exceeds 100 silver. She stands before him now, demanding every single coin back with interest. Jianghu's expression twists in horror. This woman is playing dirty, ignoring their original agreement entirely for her own gain. The Phoenix Sword refuses to accept any excuses made during his drunken state and decides to play a dangerous card. She threatens to spread rumors that the Lord of Axo Fortress plans to seize control of the Blue Pine Camp. Jianghu is left speechless by her audacity. He has never encountered a woman so cunning and ruthlessly manipulative before. Yet, her true motive is simple. She is using these underhanded tactics just to keep Jianghu's brilliant mind under her protection. Despite his pride as a man, the strategist is cornered. He realizes he cannot escape her grasp without a fight. He finally agrees to join their faction, but only if she swears to take the secret of Axo Fortress to her grave. The Phoenix Sword glows with triumph. She stakes her honor and her legendary name on the oath to keep his secret. Hearing the name Phoenix Sword again makes Jianghu's heart skip a beat. Her true identity is finally revealed. She is a member of the famous 5 Dragons and 3 Phoenixes, the elite masters known throughout the entire Murim. Time is running out. The troops begin to mobilize immediately, leaving the scene of the previous battle behind them. They leave the corpse of the fake nun on the ground, but a mysterious shadow soon approaches the body. The stranger's eyes burn with intensity as he vows to report the nun's unwavering loyalty to the demonic cult. The cultists perform a final rite for their fallen comrade. Meanwhile, a local shopkeeper watches the army depart in shock. She can hardly believe that Jianghu, a lowly porter, has managed to join the ranks of the martial arts world's elite. His humble origins do not hinder him. Among these powerful warriors, Jianghu finally looks like he is exactly where he belongs. As the sun shines on the marching army, the strategist's brilliance begins to radiate, signaling the start of a new legend. The troop advances, but they soon hit a wall. The demonic cult's movements are much faster than their intelligence predicted. Faced with a tactical nightmare, the sect leader turns his gaze toward Jianghu. It is time for the genius to speak. Jianghu is summoned to the front. The muscular sect leader offers him a horse, revealing his connection to the Phoenix Sword. It turns out she is the leader's daughter. Jianghu wonders why a man of such stature would need his humble advice. The Phoenix Sword mounts her horse with effortless grace, while Jianghu stands frozen, staring at the beast in silent terror. His face flushes red as his secret is exposed. The grand strategist of the Murim is actually terrified of horses. Before he can retreat, the sect leader grabs him by the collar, lifting the genius into the air like a toy. He is tossed onto the saddle with brutal efficiency. A sharp smack to the horse's rear sends them bolting forward instantly. Jianghu screams in terror as the world blurs. The sect leader ignores his cries, focused only on the upcoming tactical move. The leader demands an immediate decision. He needs to know which path will lead their army to a decisive victory. Jianghu calms his racing heart and analyzes the board. He points toward Sichuan, sensing a golden opportunity for a rescue. He deduces that the spy's report of 600 enemies was a psychological trap designed to manipulate their fear. The cult wants to divide their forces. Jianghu's intellect sees through the ruse, preparing a counter-strategy to crush their enemies. 600 enemies lie in wait near Sichuan. According to Jianghu's god-tier calculations, their numbers are exact. 600 are intercepting the MA sect, while another 600 march on Sichuan's 700 defenders. No matter their strength, 600 men cannot simply erase Sichuan city. There is a deeper scheme. They aim to fracture the Murim alliance's strength first, using a classic divide-and-conquer strategy to bleed them dry. Before the final siege, Jianghu grabs Sword Phoenix's hand, his mind already 3 steps ahead of the enemy. He shouts orders towards Sichuan, but secretly carves the real plan onto her palm. A masterstroke of deception. Sword Phoenix instantly realizes his words are mere bait for the hidden rats. Jianghu is playing them all. Using telepathy, she relays the truth to the leader. He nearly flinches, realizing spies are currently watching them. Jianghu is feeding the shadows exactly what they want to hear, weaving a web of lethal misinformation. The leader plays his part perfectly, pretending to fall for the enemy's divide-and-conquer trap while preparing a counter. The warriors cheer, unaware they are actors in Jianghu's grand play to crush the divided enemy forces. A brilliant strategy, they roar. The leader laughs, knowing the enemy is about to taste their own medicine. With a thunderous command, he orders the army to charge toward Sichuan at full speed, acting as bait. As the mighty legion vanishes into the dust, a hidden figure finally emerges from the desolate crags. Believing he has intercepted the ultimate secret, the spy hurriedly records every word of the Alliance's plan. A golden-feathered messenger bird descends from the heavens, landing right on the spy's waiting satchel. He secures the false intelligence into the bird's tube, his face twisted in a triumphant, arrogant smirk. The bird takes flight, carrying the seeds of the cult's destruction directly to their dark headquarters. The spy watches it go, certain that victory is in his hands. He has no idea he's doomed. The bird reaches the ruins of Unho's conquest. The cult leader unfolds the message with cold, steady hands. Unho realizes his internal spy was exposed and likely eliminated, but the intel seems too perfect to ignore. His subordinates tremble at his darkening expression as he crushes the letter, burning it into nothingness with chi. Unho announces that the Murim alliance is approaching with everything they have, his eyes flashing with lethal intent. Despite the massive army bearing down on them, Unho remains eerily calm. Fear has no place in his heart. He asks for a final head count. After last night's bloody skirmish, 98 of his men have fallen. Only 500 warriors remain. The odds are stacked against them, and his subordinates are visibly shaken. They worry. 800 Murim masters are coming, but Unho's 2,000 IQ brain has already found the solution. To him, numbers are irrelevant. He revises his strategy on the fly, seeking a result beyond his original expectations. There is no fear in his gaze, only a chilling anticipation for the slaughter that is about to commence. His crimson eyes glow. He prepares to trap the alliance from behind, crushing them against the city walls. He has held Sichuan since the start. He believes the outcome of this war is already set in stone. Yet, behind that mask of confidence, a shadow of doubt lingers. Who was brilliant enough to find his spy? Elsewhere, a tall, slender commander receives Unho's summons. Beside him stand the eccentric, skeletal twin devils. The message is clear. All forces must return to Sichuan to intercept the Alliance's desperate final charge. The right-hand man scoffs, believing the Murim fools are too far away to pose any real threat. But the report is grim at their current breakneck speed. The Alliance will reach the gates by tomorrow morning. The commanders turn serious. The tall one sneers at the Alliance's ignorance, mocking their fearless but suicidal march. They remain arrogant, confident that their cult fortress can easily devour any force the Alliance sends their way. With victory seemingly assured, they begin their shadow march to ambush the Alliance from the rear. Dust clouds billow as the cult legions move like ghosts. Meanwhile, Jianghu's eyes scan the horizon ahead. A crossroad lies ahead, Jianghu shouts. Turn west. We're heading straight into the heart of the forest. The leader commands the army to vanish into the woods. The real battle of wits has only just begun. The group moved like shadows, racing towards Sichuan province while the Murim world remained unaware of the coming storm. As dust billowed, Jianghu shouted strategic orders. There is a junction ahead. We must pivot toward the west. They plunged into the dense forest. The section chief echoed the command. Knowing they might lose sight, instantly deploying the quick-step technique, the trio bolted forward. Their horses galloped like lightning while only Jianghu, the phoenix sword, and the muscular uncle remained. Jianghu tried to flee after giving tactical advice, but before he could vanish, Phoenix Sword's slender hand grabbed him. She used that same old, annoying excuse, claiming Jianghu needed her protection, though her actions said otherwise. Without hesitation, she tossed Jianghu to the muscular uncle like unwanted baggage, leaving our genius strategist dangling. Suddenly, sensing a hidden presence, Jianghu's eyes turned cold. He commanded them to halt, detecting a shadow, watching them from the darkness. Phoenix Sword quickly utilized telepathy to alert the sect leader about the situation. The demonic cult spies were right on their heels. Upon receiving orders, the two warriors moved like superhuman acrobats, kicking off tree trunks to gain momentum. But suddenly, poor Jianghu was hurled, mercilessly onto a high branch. He clung for life, realizing a single slip meant a fatal fall. From their high vantage point, they scanned the horizon. In the distance, several figures were fast approaching, the persistent tails following them. The lead spy finally revealed himself at the forest's edge, looking completely disoriented. He realized he had lost the Murim's trail and gritted his teeth in sheer frustration. Cursing his luck, he realized the Murim alliance had baited him. Thinking they headed for Sichuan, he hastily scribbled a report for the demonic cult. He prepared to release his messenger bird to spread the word. But out of nowhere, Phoenix Sword intercepted the avian messenger. The spy gasped, his eyes wide with shock. Enraged, he drew a hidden blade from his sleeve, ready to strike her down for interfering. Yet, he wasn't just facing the Phoenix Sword. The muscular uncle descended like a meteor, blade in hand. With a thunderous impact, the uncle's massive machete blocked the spy's desperate assault. The sheer force sent the cultist flying backward. Meanwhile, Phoenix Sword landed gracefully on a branch with her prize, the bird. The spy, humiliated after a single clash, seethed with rage. The muscular uncle stood before him like a relentless wall of iron, his voice booming. "Prepare for your journey to the underworld, scum." Realizing the golden bird was captured, the spy knew the secret message was lost. He had one option: to deliver the report in person. With a sinister smirk, he turned to flee at top speed. But escaping the muscular uncle was impossible. Like a charging bull, the warrior chased him down relentlessly. As the two played a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, Phoenix Sword cheered from the sidelines. Jianghu, annoyed by the delay, snapped. "How long do you plan on wasting time here?" She blinked, confused by his sudden irritation. The young genius sighed, exasperated by her lack of tactical foresight. "Read the damn letter! Why else did you catch the bird?" he demanded, his patience wearing thin. As she reached for the scroll, Jianghu predicted its contents with godlike precision. It warned of the Murim's sudden change in direction. When she finally read the words, her eyes widened in pure disbelief. It was exactly as Jianghu foresaw. If this reached the cult, the Murim alliance would be doomed. Yet, Jianghu didn't stop the bird. His eyes glinted with a sharp, calculating light as he revealed a masterful deception. Finally, the Phoenix Sword's slow mind caught up. She realized he planned to forge the message. Jianghu plucked a leaf and, using a simple twig, meticulously carved a new time, 10 p.m. He packaged the leaf as a secret missive. If the cult swallowed this bait, the tides would turn. With the cuckoo swapped for the phoenix, she released the bird. Watching it fly toward the horizon, a wave of somber realization hit her. The legendary Sichuan sect had truly fallen to the heavenly demon. She finally grasped Jianghu's grand design, feint toward Sichuan while secretly striking the Ma sect instead. By cutting off the cult's rear supply lines, they would lure the enemy into a false sense of absolute victory. While the cult focused on Sichuan, their forces would be stretched thin and vulnerable. The Murim reinforcements would then systematically dismantle them. Phoenix Sword looked at Jianghu, finally understanding the sheer scale of his intellect. "What is our next move?" she asked, awaiting his command. "There are only two paths to victory," Jianghu replied. "It all depends on how perfectly we can deceive our enemies and lead them straight into our waiting trap." As they marched, Phoenix Sword couldn't help but ask, "How did you sense the pursuers?" Even martial experts felt nothing. How could a mere porter see through the shadows? Jianghu recalled the spy's final warning. The heavenly demon's eyes were everywhere. Logic dictated that if one spy was sent, a hidden swarm surely followed behind. He marveled at the soldier's trust. Why would elite warriors believe a lowly porter? His 2000 IQ strategy was simply too flawless. They followed him without question. There was no alternative. They had to acknowledge his god-tier perception and wisdom. Jianghu felt the burden of leadership. One strategic error would lead to certain death. Sensing his dread, Phoenix Sword spoke. "Your words aren't a curse, but a lifeline. You turn peril into safety. You are the savior of 1,000 lives." Jianghu remained cautious. If his intellect failed, would they tear him to pieces? Fear clashed with cold ambition. His mind was now focused on absolute victory. He once sought a quiet life, but now, his genius craved Murim domination. Phoenix Sword rejoiced. She saw a path to triumph through his brilliant mind. With Jianghu's brain, the impossible became reality. Every move was a winning play. The key to the board was the untapped power of the Ma sect. Their strength had reached legendary levels under their new genius sect leader. They were the 9 sects pillars. Jianghu intended to manipulate them like pawns. Phoenix Sword was stunned. He planned to drag the entire Ma sect into battle. Ma faced a choice: the safe, flat road, or the dangerous, scenic mountain trail. Knowing the romantic hearts of the MA maidens, he predicted their path perfectly. By using treacherous mountain shortcuts, they could intercept the MA formation. They had to move now. The window for this grand manipulation was closing fast. Physically weak but mentally godlike, Jianghu had to rely on her raw strength. Phoenix Sword hoisted the genius up, launching forward like a lethal human rocket. They couldn't wait for the veteran. In this game of speed, every second was vital. Speed was the ultimate strategy. To win, they had to strike before the enemy reacted. Like a gale of steel, she charged through the forest, shattering every obstacle. She lashed Jianghu to her back with vines, securing the brain of their operation. With her passengers safe, Phoenix Sword unleashed her full, explosive, martial aura. She soared through the canopy, moving faster than the eye could follow. They reached a massive precipice, a vertical wall of stone blocking their path. "Hold on tight," she commanded, using a branch to slingshot them up the cliff. 10 meters vanished instantly. Jianghu wondered if her legs were made of springs. From the heavens, the fairies watched. This woman was an incredible force of nature. The white fairy smiled. This girl was more capable than 1,000 men combined. The red fairy agreed. Her potential was limitless. None in Murim could catch her. But a darker question arose. Have you made your choice for the future? They hesitated to meddle with fate. The threads of destiny were already tangled. A grim shadow crossed their faces. Must they eventually become enemies on the battlefield? Meanwhile, Phoenix Sword continued her gravity-defying climb up the vertical stone. With one final kick, they reached the summit. But the true trial lay ahead. Jagged peaks stretched into the horizon. The path was a nightmare of endless gaps. Miles of empty air lay between the cliffs. One slip meant certain death below. They steeled their hearts. To dominate Murim, they had to conquer the heavens first. One wrong step means certain death. In this lethal gamble, Jianghu finally speaks. "Forgive me, Phoenix Sword. My strategy pushed you into this bottomless abyss." But she doesn't hesitate for a second. She plunges forward into the jaws of fate. Jianghu clings to her for dear life. They aim for a jagged, protruding ledge. She reaches out with desperate strength. Their bodies slide toward the endless void. The stone is slicker than ice. She leaps again toward the steep, rocky slope. No time to breathe. Sunlight breaks through with a sudden spark of hope. The summit is finally within reach. But what they find is a cruel, solitary peak. It is a lonely pillar of stone. No path remains for them to walk forward. Jianghu seeks a safer detour. But the Phoenix Sword denies his retreat instantly. Wasting time ruins his master plan. Wit and speed are their only weapons now. She resolves to push onward regardless. Even without a path, she will forge one. Jianghu is absolutely stunned. Her recklessness outweighs even his brilliant mind. They must stand together as one. Only one terrifying choice remains for them. Jianghu calculates the lethal descent. He points to a landing spot far below. Looking down, there is no safety. Just a bottomless pit of earth and shadow. His heroic courage shatters instantly. A fall here means total, permanent annihilation. Cold sweat pours down his face. He begs to find another way around. But her gaze is absolute and iron-willed. Saving time means saving countless lives. Jianghu sees her true soul now. She is more than just a legendary warrior. Fear lingers, but trust is stronger. In this crisis, they must move as one. She reveals her secret, hidden art. Mobility is her true masterpiece, not the blade. Hope flares in Jianghu's heart. Her confidence is a beacon in the darkness. He entrusts his life to her hands. They stand atop the soaring, jagged peak. She doesn't hesitate for a heartbeat. They dive into the roaring, whistling wind. They are in a total freefall. She gathers massive internal energy in her legs. An explosion of aura softens the impact. They crash into the deep, welcoming lake. Meanwhile, Unho receives the fake letter. The trap is set within his demonic hands. 10 p.m. seems like the perfect hour. His subordinates prepare for the coming slaughter. But Unho's genius mind stalls. Something about this perfection feels incredibly wrong. Nothing in this world is this flawless. Suspicion begins to poison his dark mind. He stares at the crude leaf messenger. The sender was in a desperate, frantic rush. No time for paper or ink. Only a panicked message carved in haste. If the army is slow, why hurry? Unho's face darkens with sudden realization. This is a deceptive enemy ploy. His men watch in awe of his intellect. A single leaf revealed the entire truth. He orders the Legion to prepare for war. The Murim alliance will arrive early. They must be ready to strike them first. Ambush them if they change course. But his advisor warns of their low numbers. Splitting the army is a fatal risk. They need reinforcements to ensure total victory. Unho wears a demonic, twisted grin. He will not waste a single second. His blood boils for the coming chaos. The hunt must begin this very moment. He vanishes like a bolt of lightning. Laughter echoes as the predator finally awakens. The command rings out. Follow him. The demonic sect moves like hunting hawks. Unho leads the charge into darkness. Jianghu and Phoenix Sword barely survive. They crawl onto the rocky stream shore. Her divine movement saved their lives today. Clinging to life, the two gasped for air after that terrifying plunge. Their hearts nearly stopped from the impact. Another debt of life was owed. Yet, there was zero time to rest as the gears of war turned. Their legs trembled, refusing to stand. Despite her legend, the Sword Phoenix shook with a fear she couldn't hide. Behind her mask of strength, a cold shiver consumed her. This was the first time she felt truly broken. In that fleeting moment near death, her entire past flashed by. The abyss had finally stared back at her. Seeing this fierce warrior so vulnerable, Jianghu wondered which side was real. He had to reignite her spirit. To spark her resolve, he shared a chilling truth. If the enemy was Baek-un-ho, tricks would not suffice. That monster possesses a deadly sixth sense. He will surely detect the hidden message and act with lethal precision. Once he deciphers the leaf's secret, he will withdraw his forces from Sichuan immediately. The clock is ticking fast. Sword Phoenix bolted upright, her spirit reignited. They had to move before the enemy's net closed around them. She urged him to flee, but Jianghu remained still. He delivered a cold command. She must go on alone. Stunned, she questioned her own ears. To split up now seemed like a suicide mission in this Murim land. Jianghu calculated that the MA survivors would follow the river. If they camped, they would seek this water. This was the perfect ambush point, yet he planned to head southeast toward the dangerous Yellow Dragon Canal alone. That canal is the destined graveyard where the main forces clash. He was walking straight into the lion's den. Her worry was visible, but he stood firm. Without martial arts, he relied solely on his 2000 IQ. Victory or defeat now rested on her shoulders. She had to lead the Imai reinforcements before the slaughter began. Before parting, he pointed toward a hidden mountain pass. A narrow path that only a master could traverse quickly. It was a high-stakes shortcut. She vanished like a shadow, while Jianghu prayed for her swift, safe return. With no time to waste, he leaped across the river stones. His mind was already 3 moves ahead. At Yellow Dragon Canal, the cult's vanguard met the alliance. Everything was unfolding exactly as the boy had predicted. Even the invincible sword was forced to admit it. A mere porter had manipulated the battlefield like a chessboard. He was no longer a lowly servant, but the hidden architect. He had changed the entire world's fate today. The scenery was hauntingly beautiful. Yet the leader knew this paradise would soon become a crimson tomb for many. Meanwhile, the tall cult leader received dire news. The alliance wasn't in Sichuan. They were closing in fast. Realizing he'd been played, his eyes burned with rage. The trap had snapped shut, and he was prey. They were outnumbered, yet he smiled. The heavenly ghost, Baek-un-ho, was bringing reinforcements to crush the Murim. The twins doubted if help would truly come. But they had no choice but to bet their lives now. Believing they held the winning hand, the Hukwainan cultists surged forward. A black tide flooded the field. The clash began. The invincible sword led the charge, while the leader stayed back to coordinate the grand strategy. Just as he prepared to send his reserves, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air, freezing his very heart. The landscape was breathtakingly elegant. Yet, the leader's gaze darkened, knowing his brothers would fall on this soil. On the opposing side, the tall cultist received a report. The Murim army was closing in with every passing second. Discovering they had walked into a meticulously crafted trap, his fury exploded, radiating a terrifying, murderous aura. Even the MI sects movement had been detected. Despite the disadvantage, he remained confident in a total victory. He believed the heavenly ghost, Baek-un-ho, was near. This reinforcement was their ultimate trump card for domination. The twin cultists whispered in doubt. Would that monster truly save them, or simply leave them to perish? Their survival hinged entirely on Unho's arrival. They waited, clutching the hope of a guaranteed, bloody triumph. With a powerful backer, their confidence soared. They charged into the arena, followed by a massive dark army. The Huainyan forces were endless. Finally, the invincible sword and the secret squad clashed with the enemy. They struck with overwhelming force. Back at the rear, leader Doc Ko prepared to provide support at any moment. Believing the rear was secure, he prepared to deploy half his men. But a sudden, piercing shriek stopped him. He spun around in shock, his mind racing. A new, unexpected variable had just entered the deadly Murim game. The sound was haunting, a signal of impending doom. The battlefield's atmosphere shifted instantly into pure, cold terror. Every calculation was being tested. In this world of masters, only the genius brain would truly survive the night. Soldiers part for Jianghu. He halts their doom, calculating every lethal variable, preserving his secret ace. Honor fights cold logic. Unho approaches fast, seeking a desperate blitzkrieg. Attrition means certain death. Half will surely die. Late MA spells defeat. Strategy breaks the veteran, bowing to superior intellect. Ambush. A dirty play. Remain ghosts, stay hidden. Pride reaches breaking point. Honor forbids the shadows. Loyalty defines a warrior. A strategic, bloody compromise. Seeing brothers fall hurts. Splitting the Dako force. Left wing, strike now. Shadows move like lightning. Twin demons versus masters. Moonlight chakra erupts now. Forbidden, rare demonic arts. Steel clashes with destiny. Shockwaves shatter the ground. I'll take your head. Bloodlust ignites his eyes. Predators lunging for kills. Never underestimate a master. Relentless, lethal sword rain. Crushing knee hits home. Cornered demons start talking, mocking Kunlun's Fallname. Kunlun never truly fell. Mental games fail entirely. Blades meet in fury. Surviving the impossible fall. Jianghu's brain wins. Victory remains a gamble. No certain path exists. Blindly following the genius. Murim's future looks dark. Survival is his burden. 800 million lives weighed heavy on the Phoenix Sword's shoulders when the horrific death rhapsodies of the fallen began to echo. The agonizing screams grew louder and more frantic, leaving both of them paralyzed in a cold sweat of pure terror. Casting their gaze toward the blood-soaked battlefield, it was clear the demonic cult had already checkmated their first move. The hidden ambush of the Dako clan was meant to be an impenetrable wall, but they were dismantled before the reinforcements even blinked. Realizing their secret formation had been exposed so easily, the sect leader felt a wave of sheer disbelief wash over him. However, through Jianghu's predatory vision, he spotted a dark silhouette, circling the very shadows where their men lay dead. Observing their lethal efficiency and synchronized movements, he instantly identified the nightmare before them. The Black Wolf Squad. They were the elite fangs of the Heavenly Demon Army, led by the monstrous Unho, a man whose name was synonymous with slaughter. Commanded by a predator who hunted masters for sport, he was the living embodiment of the Grim Reaper on the battlefield. Desperate to stem the tide, the leader prepared to throw his own life into the fray, as no one else could withstand the Black Wolf's bite. In this grim reality, the burden of facing such a monster fell solely on his shoulders, a lonely path of certain destruction. Suddenly, Jianghu, a man without a single ounce of martial prowess, stepped forward, proposing to outsmart the beast through pure calculation. Thankfully, the titangent-like uncle arrived just in time, radiating a majestic aura that commanded the leader to focus on strategy instead. Relief washed over the leader's face as the powerhouse returned, while the buff warrior smirked with unshakable confidence. "The heavy hitter is back," he roared, his pride swelling as he prepared to turn the tide of blood. But before the dust could even settle, he vanished into a blur of divine speed that defied the laws of physics. Witnessing a movement technique that surpassed even the most legendary thieves, Jianghu finally felt a flicker of hope in their survival. This massive warrior was bound by a life debt of loyalty to the leader, a survivor who once hailed from the legendary North Sea Ice Palace. When the demonic cult ravaged the borderlands, his clan refused to kneel to evil and was erased from history in a single night. The fires of vengeance burned eternally in his soul against the cult, but a sudden explosion shattered the momentary silence. They whipped their heads around as the earth trembled, hearts hammering against their ribs like trapped birds. Was the Heavenly Demon Army already crushing the ambush unit? They could only watch from afar, praying to gods they no longer trusted. Every second was paid for in blood, and their only mission now was to buy enough time for a miracle to occur. Jiang and Unho were now locked in a mental invisible duel, both searching for the other amidst the chaos of war. Jiang's eyes scanned the burning tree line, wondering if the mastermind was lurking within the smoke and embers. Then, looking upward, his heart stopped. The very phantom he had been hunting stood perched atop the highest branch. After 11 long, agonizing years, the fated reunion with Unho was finally happening under a blood-red sky. The sheer pressure of his presence was suffocating, a testament to the monstrous power he had cultivated in the shadows. The reckless boy from Jiang's memories was gone, replaced by a man of overwhelming and terrifying martial authority. For the first time, the sect leader faced the legend, the one known as the Heavenly Demon Blade, Baek Unho. From his vantage point, Unho looked like a celestial deity, with the stars themselves seemingly bowing to his position. It was as if the supreme star of the heavens had descended, declaring him the one true overlord of the Murim world. Jiang's expression turned deathly cold as he issued a chilling command, telling the leader to retreat at once if he valued his life. The leader gasped in shock. Abandoning the field was unthinkable, yet their core strength was being methodically dismantled. Even if the MA sect reinforcements arrived this very second, the strategic advantage had already been seized by a superior mind. Seeing his brothers-in-arms bleeding out in the forest, the leader couldn't fathom such a cowardly escape. To survive alone while his men perished was a fate worse than death, yet the reality of the battlefield was cruelly clear. The Murim Alliance's hope was flickering out. Ever since Unho conquered Sichuan, the board was already tilted in his favor. Every single variable and desperate struggle had already been calculated within Unho's grand master plan. Their only path away from total annihilation was a shameful retreat, but the leader hesitated, bound by his warrior's pride. He reminded Jiang that as a non-martial artist, the concept of running away was far too simple to utter. For a practitioner of the way, turning one's back on the enemy was a spiritual death far more painful than any blade. Jiang understood that pride, yet the sheer intensity of his logic left the seasoned sect leader reeling in shock. He was being forced to choose the path of a coward simply because the strategic math left no other room for survival. They were trapped with no path forward and no escape, facing a master tactician who turned warriors into mere pawns. In this dire crisis, retreat is the only option. Jiang gazes at the heavens, realizing that the divine timing is finally on his side. Sensing the scent of rain upon the wind, he knows. The atmosphere is shifting, and heaven's tears are about to drown this battlefield. After a tense wait, the first dark clouds finally roll in. Everything is unfolding exactly as Jiang's 2000 IQ brain predicted. He immediately exploits the treacherous terrain of this forest. He knows of a hidden, narrow path carved into the jagged cliffside nearby. If they retreat to that ledge now, they can survive. It is the only thread of hope remaining in this desperate struggle for life. Suddenly, a single droplet shatters against a leaf. A moment later, a violent deluge begins to pour down from the darkened heavens. Move now, Jiang commands with cold authority. There is no time left. In this high-stakes gamble, every second is paid for in blood. The sect leader wavers, caught between survival and his warrior's pride. To run is to betray the very soul of a martial master. Ultimately, he trusts the genius youth's strategy. He bellows to the Dokgo ambush team to hold their ground and face the coming storm. Everyone, stay at your posts. Do not retreat a single step. Block the enemy with every ounce of your strength and martial spirit. By your command, their roars echo through the rain. The sounds of clashing steel and desperate battle cries intensify as the sacrifice begins. Jiang watches the carnage, his eyes filled with a grim sorrow. He knows in his heart that not a single soul will survive. The sect leader suffers the most, watching his brothers die to save the rest. He turns away, his heart heavy with unbearable grief. He silently begs for forgiveness from those fighting to the death behind him. Their sacrifice is the foundation of this desperate escape plan. I swear upon my life, I will never forget your bravery. Your names will be etched into my soul until my last breath. As the leader tries to pull him away, Jiang resists. He fears his lack of martial skill will only hinder their desperate retreat. He plans to survive on his own, but the leader won't hear of it. Leaving him behind now would mean certain death for Jiang. The leader shouts that Jiang is the only one who can navigate the narrow path. He grabs the boy's arm with iron-like grip. Hauled away through the torrential rain, Jiang is stunned. This man's internal power is far more monstrous than even the legendary Sword Phoenix. Suddenly, the reinforcements from the MA sect arrive. The tall, lanky cultist senses their presence and erupts into a chilling, psychotic laugh. They have finally arrived. I must welcome our guests with a proper bloodbath. His eyes glow with a demonic light in the dark. His twisted grin stretches from ear to ear as he lunges forward. He is a predator who finds pure ecstasy in the slaughter. The Sect leader grits her teeth in pure disgust. She recognizes this monster immediately, a wanted criminal the Alliance has long sought. This man is a legendary fugitive that no one could ever catch. Now, he has resurfaced as an elder of the demonic cult. She draws her blade and strikes with the force of a mountain. Their blades collide, sending sparks flying through the heavy rain and wind. The villain blocks her strike with a thrill-seeking smirk. However, he is no match for the sheer aura of the Sect leader. Her majestic sword art sends the lanky monster crashing into the dirt. Meanwhile, the battle with the secret tech leader reaches its peak. The sect leader arrives on the scene, still dragging Jianghu like a sack. He immediately joins the fray, showing no mercy to the cultists. He tosses Jianghu aside and strikes the enemy's right hand. A single, powerful slash across the back ends the duel in an instant. The battle is settled. With the sect leader's true power unleashed, they are no longer the prey being driven into a corner. Just as they prepare to withdraw, the sect leader witnesses a nightmare. The powerful sect leader is suddenly sent flying like a doll. He wonders if his old eyes are playing tricks on him. He asks the secret tech leader if he truly saw that impossibility. The younger man is drenched in cold sweat, his voice trembling. I saw it too. This isn't a ghost story. This is a massacre. They spot the enemy's left hand, sprinting toward them at high speed. They must neutralize him before he can close the distance and kill. The two masters strike in unison, their coordination perfect. Behind them, the unbeatable sword is in hot pursuit, closing the trap on him. Jianghu frantically scans the area for the leader. He knows that Sword Phoenix must have successfully guided the reinforcements to this location. Despite being surrounded by masters, the left hand moves like a shadow. He evades their grasp with fluid, unnatural movements that defy logic. They curse at the slippery rat as he eludes their capture. Suddenly, the unbeatable sword catches up, his face full of urgent questions. What has changed? Why is the tide of battle shifting so violently? He demands to know the truth behind this sudden, terrifying escalation. When he hears that the heavenly demon, Baek-un-ho, is personally here, his heart stops. The atmosphere turns heavy with the scent of death. The revelation leaves them both speechless and paralyzed with fear. The master of the demonic cult has finally stepped onto the field. The situation is no longer a mere skirmish. It is a descent into hell. Every strategic move Jianghu made is now being tested by fate. He must use his 2000 IQ brain to find a flaw in the demon's plan. Brute force will never defeat a god of ruin. As the masters regroup, the shadow of the heavenly demon looms over them. The final move in this deadly game is about to begin. The genius strategist stares into the rain, calculating the odds. To dominate the Murim, he must first survive the descent of the devil. The vanguard buckles under the heavenly ghost army's overwhelming pressure. Revenge must wait. This dire situation demands an immediate tactical withdrawal. The undefeated sword seethes. His pride crushed by Unho's monstrous power. The commander halts the madness. We must survive to conquer tomorrow. Thousands of lives hang by a thread. The retreat begins now. With resolute eyes, they obey. Full retreat, the command thunders out. Disciples form a human shield, while the main force vanishes. Elite captains stall the tide. Steel rings through the blood-soaked valley. The MI leader stands firm. Go. I'll handle this cunning devil. Reinforcements are coming. Retreat now. The four leaders bolt for safety. They vanish into the night. But Unho is still watching. Perched like a predator, Unho enjoys the chaos from above. No corpses left behind? He realizes a brilliant escape is unfolding. Unho's gaze freezes. Who has the genius to order this? A mastermind is hidden among them. The hunt becomes personal. Is the spy hunter also this strategist? The mystery deepens further. Clouds hide his stars, but his bloodlust illuminates the night. He draws his blades. The predator finally enters the killing fields. A flash of steel erases a soldier. His speed defies humanity. He flickers like a ghost, harvesting souls in a heartbeat. Unho stands amidst the fallen, eyes glowing with manic joy. I must find this strategist. Meanwhile, Jianghu runs for life. Leading the survivors, Jianghu moves on pure, frantic instinct. He prays his path is true while the heavens scream. Lightning shatters a tree. Fire explodes. Terror grips his heart. He doesn't stop. He runs until his lungs burn like fire. Hundreds of lives depend on him. He cannot fail them now. Doubt creeps in. Is he leading them to their deaths? Was the plan a mistake? Panic threatens to break his spirit. He fears the cult's wrath. His mind is a chaotic storm. Exhausted, Ji-young collapses. He curses this brutal Murim world. He forces himself up. Suddenly, a familiar silhouette appears ahead. The Sword Phoenix arrives. MA has reached the rendezvous point. Mission accomplished. The reinforcements have arrived just in time. Hope returns. The soldiers see the MA robes and cheer. MI is here. We are saved. Morale reaches its absolute peak. Switch to mobile retreat. The MA sect joins the escape. They set hidden traps, turning the retreat into a lethal weapon. The Sword Phoenix senses the enemy. The main force is close. She grabs Ji-young, pulling him at a blinding, superhuman speed. Ji-young is flying, his feet barely touching the earth. The storm breaks, revealing a pale moon above the dark clouds. They reach a sheer cliff. A narrow bridge is their escape. The Sword Phoenix and Ji-young lead the way across. They guide the army across the abyss. One slip means death. A fleeting breath of relief escaped as they reached the cliffside. But safety was merely an illusion. Looking back, the ranks had thinned. The losses were devastating, far worse than his cold calculations predicted. Anxiety clouded his eyes. Had the road claimed them? Sword Phoenix moved quickly to calm his rising fear. Our elites are trailing behind. These masters possess the strength and martial arts needed to hold the line. They are the shield for our vanguard. Confident now, the group pressed toward the horizon with renewed focus. A 50-foot bridge loomed ahead. If destroyed after their crossing, the enemy would be trapped in the abyss. Suddenly, Sword Phoenix declared she would stay behind. Ji-young's expression darkened at her reckless, solitary choice. She refused to leave her father. The Poison Sect leader and his warriors were still fighting for survival. Pushing Ji-young forward, she urged the survivors to move. Time is a luxury we no longer possess. Faster! We must breach this pass immediately. Only then can we provide the necessary support for our rear guard. Their paths diverged. Ji-young took command, guiding the remaining forces toward the treacherous bridge between the peaks. Cross the chasm, then look to the right. A hidden mountain slide will lead us to the valley. Below lies the Great Plain. I will lead the vanguard there to fortify our position and regroup. The plan was set. Ji-young spearheaded the descent while the soldiers followed their brilliant strategist's lead. Sword Phoenix stood as a lone sentinel. Behind her, the bridge groaned, a fragile thread over certain death. Movement must be swift and light. The masters utilized their agility, treading carefully upon the rotting timber. As the last soldier vanished into the mist, she exhaled. But silence was shattered by a sudden roar. The soldiers screamed Ji-young's name. On the bridge, the genius strategist had finally made a fatal misstep. A plank snapped like dry bone. Gravity claimed him before his brilliant mind could calculate an escape route. He braced for the afterlife, falling into the void. Suddenly, a hand clamped firmly around his wrist. His savior was a young warrior with iron-like legs, bracing against the bridge's edges to halt the fall. Ji-young stared into the bottomless depths. 1 inch closer, and he would have been crushed into dust. He looked up at the man who defied death for him. Cheers erupted from the watching martial artists. Seeing the crisis averted, Sword Phoenix rushed over, her heart hammering against her ribs in sheer terror. Relief washed over her as she confirmed his safety. Be careful. The rain has made these planks lethal. She ordered a warrior to carry Ji-young. Soon, the great strategist was being hauled like a pampered princess. It was a humiliating sight for a man of his stature. His comrades didn't miss the chance to tease. Ji-young's face turned a shade of bruised purple. He scanned the ground, wishing for a hole to swallow him. I need to learn martial arts, he muttered. Relying on others was a variable he could no longer tolerate. But his carrier laughed. You possess something far more terrifying than a sword, Ji-young. A god-tier brain. Your foresight rivals the legendary strategists of old. Without your mind, we would all be corpses by now. Martial arts can be forged through sweat, but a 2000 IQ is a gift from the heavens. The soldier sighed in genuine envy. You wield the ultimate weapon in Murim, one that no blade can touch. Meanwhile, Sword Phoenix scanned the trail for her father. The path remained empty. hauntingly silent and cold. Yesterday they shared wine. Today, the shadows of death loomed over those who hadn't yet returned. A massive silhouette blurred through the trees. She recognized him instantly, the mountain-like figure of her uncle. The brute laughed upon seeing her. We finally caught up. But behind him, the mountain path was vacant. "Where are the others?" she whispered. He reassured her they were close, having sprinted ahead to deliver news. When she asked if the sect was intact, the giant's boisterous laughter died into a hesitant, pained smile. "Your father is safe," he claimed quickly. "The sect leader still breathes, so clear your mind of worry. The secret master and the invincible sword endure." But the cost of their survival remained unspoken in the air, of the others in the thicket. He sped forward like a thunderbolt to signal the vanguard and ease their worries. When asked if the unit was still intact, the muscular warrior looked away with a hint of hesitation. He quickly reassured the young lady that her father, the chief, was still safe and breathing. Reports from the rear confirmed that both the secret art leader and the undefeated sword remained unharmed. As the forces withdrew, the ground was stained with the blood of fallen warriors, while the veteran commander faced a terrifying ordeal. Death nearly claimed him in that desperate struggle against the lethal and overwhelming captain of the Black Wolf. The enemy's monstrous power turned his initial confidence into a frantic battle for survival against the encroaching darkness. Only when the blades clashed did he realize his opponent was a true monster, forcing him into a corner. Cold sweat poured down as he realized that without the Sect's intervention, he would be in a nameless grave. This ambush was no accident. It was a calculated strike involving not just the Heavenly Blade, but many legendary masters. Now, the monks hold the line as a rear guard, while their sect leader takes the center of the battlefield. 48 warriors per unit unleash the Twin Dragon formation, creating a legendary shield against the incoming tide of evil. Despite the torrential rain blinding the battlefield, the sheer power of their formation radiated through the heavy gloom. The Twin Dragon technique forged a barrier as unyielding as cold steel, halting the demonic advance in its tracks. 200 reinforcements arrived as salvation, yet only half remained to shield their mistress in this suicide mission. The rest were ordered to retreat, leaving 100 souls to face the abyss, alongside the sect leader. They successfully broke the pursuit to regroup with the Alliance, but the atmosphere remained heavy with dread and sorrow. Despite the chance to flee, their spirits remained unbroken. The leader would never bow her head to demonic scum. She chose to save her disciples, standing alone against the storm to hold the line until her very last breath. Hearing of her sacrifice, the Phoenix felt a wave of despair as guilt weighed heavier than any blade. They should have stayed to fight. Dying together with honor seemed a far better fate than this bitter survival. At least then, their hearts would be at peace, free from the suffocating regret of leaving their comrades behind. Yet, a glimmer of hope remained. 2 elite forces were still in play, if only they could turn the tide. The Martial Alliance had grown soft and arrogant, their pride blinding them to the shadow creeping over the Murim. This lack of preparation led to a massacre. The demonic cult had spent 3 years sharpening their fangs in silence. The cult held all the cards while the Alliance was left clutching at shadows following the order to retreat. Even the veteran Braun was stunned, expecting a mutiny from those eager for blood. But the outcome was different. Jianghu's brilliance moved the pieces, his silver tongue manipulating the leaders into choosing calculated survival over empty pride. Speak of the devil, and the genius appears. The Alliance leaders finally arrived, looking completely spent from the run. They looked more like hunted prey than noble warriors. But relief washed over the camp as they arrived safely. But while they celebrated life, the battlefield told a different story with a mountain of corpses beneath the pouring rain. The scene was a nightmare of blood and iron where Alliance and cultist alike lay dead in the mud. Even MA's finest had fallen. Unho approached the broken body of a giant, his eyes burning with cold fury. Like a vengeful demon, his gaze scanned the carnage as the cost of victory was far higher than anticipated. A trembling subordinate delivered the grim report. After the final count, only 30 survivors remained in the second squad. Their survivors were tattered and broken, scarred by the hellish struggle. Yet, the Alliance suffered 1,000 times worse. A massacre of legendary proportions carved into the earth. The leader was dead, along with 400 warriors from the Alliance and the Dugu clan combined. A sycophant praised Unho, claiming this victory was only possible due to his overwhelming martial prowess and slaughter. But Unho only felt a bitter irony, knowing the vipers in the cult's hierarchy would use this against him. Those old fossils would surely complain about losing nearly an entire elite squad despite claiming the victory. If word got out that the Heavenly Blades unit was nearly wiped out, his political enemies would pounce. To silence those venomous tongues, he needed more than a Pyrrhic victory. He needed total domination. His eyes turned into icy shards. He had to achieve total victory to finally shut those old fools up. But something was wrong. His tactical mind was screaming that the Alliance's movements were far too calculated. This wasn't the clumsy brute force he knew. A phantom was moving the pieces with terrifying precision. He could smell it now. There was a hidden strategist, orchestrating this entire war from the shadows. A subordinate reported a breakthrough. A member of the Dugu clan had been captured alive for interrogation. Two dark-clad assassins dragged the prisoner before Unho. The man's eyes filled with a desperate, burning defiance. The soldier gritted his teeth, forced to kneel before his cold-blooded inquisitor. A simple trade. The strategist's identity for his life. He remained stubbornly silent. Those piercing red eyes saw everything. The soldier's resolve crumbled under that soul-crushing gaze. "There is no strategist," he screamed, but Wunho caught the lie instantly. A chilling smirk played on Wunho's lips. A fresh recruit? How interesting. Every micro-expression was laid bare. The soldier's frantic denials were completely useless. "I know nothing," he trembled. But Wunho was already bored of his desperate lies. Facing certain death, the soldier stared into the abyss as Wunho ordered his execution. Terror turned his face pale. His secrets were being stripped away without a single word. Brute force was unnecessary. This pawn would break long before the torture even began. Wunho's gaze sharpened. A master strategist? Someone was finally playing the board. Drenched in sweat, the soldier realized his silence had confirmed the existence of Jianghu. His perfect plan was crumbling. Someone was systematically dismantling his grand design from the shadows. Wunho's mask of calm shattered into a burning rage. "He's testing my patience." The pursuit continued. The subordinate suggested the elite Heavenly Wolf squad join the hunt. Wunho refused. With only 400 cultists left, they couldn't afford a reckless gamble. 200 elite Black Wolves remained, but the wounded were a burden they couldn't ignore. Finishing off the fleeing Murim dogs seemed easy, yet a lingering doubt remained. This enemy was unpredictable. They had to strike before the seed of disaster sprouted. Murderous intent flared. "If they know our moves, we must do the impossible." Studying the map, he saw through the facade. This wasn't a retreat, it was a trap. Jianghu was luring them, using the jagged terrain to bleed the cult dry. On flat ground, numbers rule. In the forest, the Alliance could swallow them whole. Wunho's 2000 IQ brain calculated the odds. The strategist wanted to fracture their unity, divide and conquer. A classic move, yet executed with terrifying, cold-blooded precision. The subordinate's face darkened. Their hidden enemy was the source of every setback. Wunho laughed. His perfect plans were being peeled back, layer by layer. This wasn't just resistance. It was a counter-gambit. The hunter was becoming the hunted. The anger vanished, replaced by a twisted sense of exhilaration. Finally, a worthy opponent. His smile widened, stretching into a mask of pure, unadulterated Murim madness. Jianghu. "I will be the one to claim your brilliant head with my hands." Miles away, a sudden chill raced down Jianghu's spine like a frozen blade. A monstrous energy was locking onto him. The predator had finally found its mark. Just the thought of Wunho's obsession made his skin crawl with primal fear. Meanwhile, the Black Wolf squad found their path severed by a destroyed bridge. The only way forward was a half-day detour around the treacherous mountain peaks. Desperation bred madness. The captain proposed a suicidal climb up the vertical cliff face. His men looked at him with sheer disgust. "Are you trying to kill us?" But time was a luxury they didn't have. They had to keep the trail hot. The captain surged upward, gripping the jagged rock with his bare, bloodied hands. One by one, the elite warriors followed, scaling the vertical death trap in silence. As the sun breached the horizon, the Murim Alliance finally regrouped in the shadows. Running was over. Now, it was time to set the ultimate snare for their pursuers. As the sun bleached the sky, the Murim Alliance safely regrouped for their final stand. Retreating was just the beginning. Now, they would unleash a trap that changed everything. With their backs against the wall, retreat is no longer an option. Now, only one path remains. They must strike back. After preserving their core strength through a tactical withdrawal, the counteroffensive begins. While the MA sect stalls the Heavenly Wolf Squad, a far deadlier predator looms in the shadows. Closing in fast is the Black Wolf Squad, the most feared hunters in the entire Murim world. Known as the Spear of the Battlefield, they serve as the heavenly demon's ultimate instruments of death. Their specialty is shattering enemy lines and ruthlessly executing anyone foolish enough to flee their reach. But they've strayed from the main cult army exactly as Jianghu's 2000 IQ brain predicted. The leader finally realizes Jianghu's desperate retreat was actually a calculated psychological gambit to isolate them. If they can dismantle the Black Wolf Squad now, they can defeat the cult forces piece by piece. Mathematically, victory is within reach. Yet the leader's confidence wavers as he surveys his battered troops. Though they hold a slight numerical advantage, the state of their warriors is truly dire. Over half are severely wounded, and the skill gap remains a mountain Jianghu must somehow level. Having analyzed their terrifying power personally, our genius strategist pivots to a war of attrition. He sets a lethal series of traps, maintaining a cold composure that leaves the veterans speechless. No ordinary man could remain this calm. Jianghu is a rare anomaly in a world of monsters. Currently a mere civilian without martial arts, he must play his hand perfectly to survive this day. He is biding his time, waiting for the singular moment to seize control of his own destiny. Fate is a cruel beast that preys on the weak unless they learn to bare their fangs. Jianghu refuses to be swallowed by a world of sorrow. His intellect is his greatest weapon. The leader senses it. This boy possesses the transcendent talent to crush fate and rewrite history itself. A spark of divine ambition ignites within Jianghu as the struggle for survival reaches its peak. Despite his humble mountaineering background, the Black Wolf Hunters have finally cornered the Martial Alliance. The Alliance warriors stand in grim silence, weapons drawn and ready to spill blood for their lives. Seeing the perfect discipline of the ranks, the enemy realizes this is no longer a panicked retreat. The Black Wolf captain is a sharp predator. He immediately senses a dangerous trap is being sprung. His subordinates merely sneer, blinded by their previous victories and overwhelming physical superiority on the plains. They underestimate the Alliance, unaware that the Black Wolf's power is about to hit an invisible wall. The captain suspects a brilliant mind is orchestrating these movements, sensing a shift in the battlefield's rhythm. He watches the soldiers reposition with uncanny precision. Something is fundamentally wrong with this desperate formation. They aren't running, they've locked into a square formation, the most ancient and stubborn defensive stance. It is the ultimate last stand, a technique used only when there is absolutely nowhere left to run. This fortress of flesh protects the wounded at the center, while the vanguard prepares for sacrifice. Every warrior is positioned at a mathematically precise distance to create an unbreakable wall of steel. As one man falls, another instantly fills the gap, maintaining a cycle of relentless, ironclad defense. This is a war between the cult's spear and Jianghu's shield, a test of pure strategic endurance. If the Black Wolf Squad charges, they will collide with a wall built of pure desperation. The enemy captain roars a bloodthirsty command. For every life lost, they must take 10 in return. That is the brutal spirit of the cult, a will forged in slaughter and total domination. They view this formation as a pathetic, last-ditch effort from a crumbling and terrified Martial Alliance. Show these fools the true meaning of terror. Let the Black Wolf Society feast on their souls. A thunderous war cry erupts from the dark-clad assassins as they launch their final, devastating charge. Even the group's veteran was initially baffled by Jianghu's choice of this barren, waterless wasteland. But now the genius plan is clear. Jianghu has turned the terrain into a sanctuary for the injured. By transforming the wounded from a liability into the protected core of his unbreakable formation, he has given his men the one thing they lacked: a fighting chance to survive the night. The square formation stood ready. To the muscular veteran, this tactical setup seemed like pure, unadulterated madness. This formation demanded an unbreakable fighting spirit. There was no time left as the Black Wolf cult surged forward. They approached with a terrifying, bloodthirsty aura. The invincible sword's veins bulged as he struggled to suppress his fury. Calm down. Everything is within my calculations. It is better they arrive early, so we can end this quickly. They see our square formation as easy prey and charge blindly. If the Heavenly Wolf arrived first, we'd be in trouble. Jin Yong quickly steadied their hearts. No reinforcements are coming. These villains are far from being a united front. I have already seen through their web of lies. This entire battle is a power play led by the evil Sect. They lead the Dark Heaven Squad to crush the Murim Alliance. But even among allies, there is no true loyalty. While they claim to be partners, the evil sect holds the leash. The Dark Heaven Squad are merely their pawns. That is why the evil sect will dictate every move in this war. They demand total control over the battlefield. With Big Un-Ho's terrifying heavenly demon sword, they seized Sichuan. But that victory was merely a hollow facade. It was a show of force meant to intimidate their own allies. Despite holding Sichuan, they are rotting from within. When the Murim reinforcements struck, the two armies led by the evil sect elders suffered a humiliating, crushing defeat. Now, the Dark Heaven Squad has lost all faith. They no longer trust the evil sect's ability to conquer anything. To dodge responsibility for their failures, the elders are looking for a sacrificial lamb to take the blame. That sacrificial pawn is the Black Wolf Squad. They have been sent here today to die in place of others. Sacrificing a high-ranking commander like Big Un-Ho would be a fatal mistake. The evil sect knows this well. Thus, the Black Wolf captain is the perfect discard. He is the most suitable sacrifice for their twisted goals. He can smell the betrayal. He knows he is a discarded pawn and is desperately seeking a way to survive. He knows if he waits for the Heavenly Wolf Squad to arrive, he will remain a puppet for the elders. If they crush the Murim alliance together, all the glory will go to the Heavenly Wolf captain instead. He would rather face death alone than let a rival steal his credit. He must prove his worth now. Their internal discord is our greatest weapon. This is the opening the Murim alliance has been waiting for. Watch them charge with such arrogant, blind confidence. That very pride will be their own funeral shroud. Our alliance needs that same fierce conviction. We must strike now while their internal fires burn with desperation. The real challenge isn't just winning. It is annihilating them before the Heavenly Wolf reinforcements can even arrive. Time is our most ruthless enemy. We have no choice but to bet everything on this single, desperate gambit. Jin Yong's 2000 IQ brain raced. How strong is their captain? Do we have anyone capable of matching him? Looking at our current forces, a one-on-one duel with that monster is practically a death sentence. To stand a chance, we must strike from multiple sides. Brute force alone will only lead us to ruin. The mystic leader had witnessed the captain's power firsthand during his earlier clash with our muscular veteran. Even with his formidable strength, our veteran was nearly overwhelmed by the enemy's oppressive and superior martial prowess. Jin Yong's genius brain instantly found the solution. We will use a relentless cycle of warfare to break him. He divided the strategy into three. 3 masters will rotate, never giving the enemy a single moment to breathe. Each will duel him for 30 seconds before switching. I will stand back and command the entire operation. The muscular veteran and the mystic leader nodded in unison. They recognized the brilliance of this calculated gamble. Listen carefully. Forget about a quick kill. Your only goal is to drain his stamina and trap him. Bind his movements. Bring him to his knees. If one of you acts recklessly, this mission ends in failure. If even one of you falters or gets injured, the plan collapses. Precision is our only path to victory. Jin Yong's words carried the weight of destiny. This battle required absolute precision and endless, gritted endurance. The atmosphere grew heavy. Every warrior knew they were facing the most dangerous predator in the Murim world. Cycle warfare is the ultimate pincer attack. We will strike from both sides until his spirit finally breaks. The 3 key fighters stepped into their positions. They committed their lives to Jin Yong's masterful strategic plan. The sect leader gave the Phoenix Sword a vital mission: protect Jin Yong's life at all costs today. But before they could act, a sudden voice cut through the air, freezing every warrior in their tracks. Since the task was entrusted to me, I realized this frail boy was the one who saved Jianghu from the brink of death. Knowing he would be a liability, a guardian was needed. He chose this young disciple as his shield. But the sect leader heard this name for the very first time. It was as if he never existed in the military. The boy bowed, in a perfect 90-degree salute, introducing himself as a guest of the Kunlun sect. Being a mere visitor rather than a soldier made the sect leader fall into a deep, suspicious silence. Jianghu was now a piece of vital importance in this game. Could he truly trust such a high-stakes life to an unknown child? Yet, with eyes full of absolute certainty, the boy's youthful passion convinced the leader. The sect leader agreed instantly, but still stationed the Phoenix Sword nearby for safety. She couldn't hide her infatuation, blushing furiously while sticking close to the handsome genius. After giving the final orders, the leader departed just as the grand battle ignited. The Black Wolf Pack surged forward, obliterating the outer defenses with bloodthirsty madness. While the Murim alliance held their formation, the secret arts leader's eyes gleamed with lethal intent. Anyone in his path was a dead man. He dove into the chaos, ending the lives of the men in black. The sect leader joined the fray, his blade carving through enemies in a heartbeat. The undefeated sword roared with majestic power, completely suppressing the heretics. One strike, one head. Meanwhile, the brawny uncle was locked in a duel with the Black Wolf captain. Neither side would yield, but the captain's raw strength began to dominate, pushing the uncle back. He cursed in frustration. The Black Wolf captain smirked, mocking the man for leaping straight into his grave. His pride wounded, the uncle unleashed a domineering strike, but it only fueled the enemy's bloodlust. The captain's grin widened as his blade danced in a lethal whirlwind of continuous strikes, too fast for the naked eye to follow. Faced with this hurricane of steel, the uncle failed to parry and collapsed to one knee, screaming in agony. Seeing an opening, the Black Wolf captain lunged for the kill. But just then, a sudden flash of steel intercepted his blow. The captain gnashed his teeth in fury. The secret arts leader had entered the ring, his sharp blade pushing the wolf back. The uncle fumed, hating that his spotlight had been stolen mid-battle. High above, Jianghu watched the carnage unfold with his two newly hired bodyguards. Seeing his comrades fall one by one while he stood idle was a heavy burden. The Phoenix Sword finally realized her distraction had compromised the entire mission. The young disciple teased her, claiming he alone was enough to protect his senior. But Jianghu was the heart of the Murim. 10 bodyguards wouldn't be enough today. She wondered if he felt fear, but Jianghu looked like a ghost, pale and trembling. Inside, he was terrified, questioning why he joined a war that wasn't his. He thought of his mother and sickly sister. If he died, they would have no one. Cursing his impulsive courage, he bit his lip. He was in far too deep now. To survive, he realized there was only one path forward: absolute victory. He looked at his companions, his eyes hardening with a new, terrifying resolve. But the odds were astronomical. Jianghu gritted his teeth in pure frustration. He had miscalculated. He had missed the golden window for triumph. His guards were stunned. They had never seen the genius strategist falter like this. Jianghu had been on battlefields since age 12. He knew the true face of terror. Not just the fighting, but the stench of rotting corpses and crawling maggots. The battlefield was a choir of agony, filled with the desperate screams of those caught in the meat grinder. As souls took their final gasping breaths, our protagonist realized a cold truth. Soldiers are merely disposable tools. Once their utility expires, these pawns are discarded without a second thought by the so-called grand generals. These commanders sacrifice lives for failed tactics, never losing a single hair themselves while others bleed out. The memory alone made Jianghu's blood boil with a righteous fury that threatened to consume his very being. He had nothing but contempt for those monsters in human skin who treated life as nothing more than trash. His hatred burned for those brainless meatheads who relied on useless formations while ignoring the true art of war. This burning resentment drove him to master every strategic nuance, obsessively refining the perfect path to victory. Yet, upon entering the Murim, he discovered a harsh reality. In this world, nobody bothers to use their brain. Tactics were ignored in favor of raw martial spirit, a philosophy where numbers mattered less than overwhelming force. The arrogance of these martial artists was staggering, as they looked down upon the genius of strategic warfare. Jianghu knew that by applying his 2,000 IQ intellect, he could conquer even the most impossible odds. Though the Black Wolf unit possessed superior power, a masterstroke of strategy could still bring them to their knees. From the sect leaders to the legendary invincible sword, everyone now placed their absolute faith in Jianghu's mind. They agreed to his gambit, choosing to follow his lead rather than rely on their own failing strength. It wasn't just respect for his talent. It was the realization that their opponent, the demonic cult, was unstoppable. Facing such overwhelming darkness, these masters desperately needed a genius to cling to, a beacon in the storm. Even a lowly porter like him had become their only hope, though a sudden wave of self-doubt gripped him. Phoenix Sword immediately stepped in, her eyes shining with a firm belief in his hidden, legendary potential. Even the junior disciple chimed in, knowing that someone as prestigious as the sect leader wouldn't trust a fool. Like a sudden awakening, Jianghu recalled the leader's words of encouragement, a spark of fire in his soul. He was told to defy his own destiny, to prove that his intellect could rewrite the laws of fate itself. To be truly valued for his genius was a shock, as he had never carried such a heavy responsibility before. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream shattered the air, forcing everyone into a defensive stance as the atmosphere shifted. They couldn't let this stalemate continue forever. Every passing second brought them closer to a catastrophic end. If the Heavenly Wolf unit arrived now, none of them would make it out of this hellscape alive. Ji-young's analytical eyes suddenly caught a flicker of weakness in the chaos, a single thread of opportunity. He demanded his allies protect him as he charged into the heart of the slaughter, shocking them both. Who in their right mind would dive into a whirlwind of steel? But his gaze was now razor-sharp. He needed to confirm his theory, to see if his tactical intuition was truly the key to their survival. Phoenix Sword didn't hesitate, promising to be his unbreakable shield as the junior disciple grinned with excitement. Staying put was a death sentence. Only a bold strike forward could shatter the enemy's crushing momentum. There was no time for delay. They surged ahead, moving with the precision of a perfectly aimed arrow. Their roles were clear. Phoenix Sword cleared the path while the junior disciple guarded their strategist's blind spot. As steel clashed around them, Ji-young's resolve hardened he would find the path to victory, no matter the cost. A lone figure moving through the madness drew the attention of the black-clothed assassins like moths to a flame. Waves of enemies lunged forward, only to be systematically dismantled by the two masters guarding the genius. The deeper they pushed, the more the enemy swarm intensified, desperate to stop their advance at any cost. Swords danced in a symphony of blood, ensuring that not a single scratch touched Ji-young as he moved. He finally stopped before the tie-tangent-like clash between the Black Wolf captain and their own heavy hitter. This was the pivot point. Everything depended on how quickly they could neutralize this monstrous threat. The captain still held the upper hand, delivering a devastating blow that sent shockwaves through the battlefield. Just then, the invincible sword descended like a vengeful god, his entrance radiating an aura of pure power. He parried the captain's lethal blade, the two warriors engaging in a high-speed duel of shifting techniques. Enraged by the interference, the captain poured his murderous intent into a strike that sent even the legend flying. The impact sends the invincible sword reeling, forced to acknowledge this monster's terrifying, godlike power. This beast possesses bottomless stamina, taking on three masters at once without losing a single breath. Moving like a phantom, he appears instantly before his prey, channeling pure killing intent into his blade. Only the invincible sword's legendary reflexes save him, allowing a narrow escape from that devastating strike. Little does the enemy know, John's 2000 IQ brain is already mapping every single movement from the shadows. The Black Wolf captain is a high-level predator, easily dismantling their attrition tactics with overwhelming force. Even against a coordinated assault, the captain counters with effortless grace, treating the masters like mere children. But in John's eyes, every invincible technique has a fatal crack, and he's positioned perfectly to find it. Detecting a flaw in such a high-tier master is nearly impossible, even for the most seasoned warriors. While the young disciple feels the pressure of a losing game, John calmly brings up the logic of Go. In a game of Baduk, the board shifts entirely based on how the weak exploit the strong's momentum. The invincible sword is cornered, his blood painting the ground as he tastes the captain's cold steel. As one fighter falls, another takes the lead, yet the captain's crushing aura shows zero signs of fading. The secret technique leader strikes with everything, but the captain merely smirks and evades like a shadow. Total confusion sets in. Why isn't he tiring? His continuous onslaught is defying the very laws of Murim. Realizing they are trapped, the leader can't believe their elite force is being humbled by a single captain. If they cannot crush this wall now, there will be no future for their sect in this world. They grit their teeth in desperation, facing a level of power they haven't encountered in decades of training. Suddenly, John's genius intellect pinpoints the secret. The captain's entire style relies on one specific distance. He is a specialist in close-quarters carnage, obsessed with closing the gap to utilize his unique blade. His heavy saber is optimized for lightning-fast slashes, making it superior to any weapon at zero range. However, the design makes it incredibly clumsy for straight thrusting attacks, creating a hidden vulnerability. John observes the captain weaving through the air, masking his inability to strike in a linear path. If they can maintain a precise one-step gap, the captain's absolute dominance will shatter in an instant. While explaining the strategy, John senses a hidden threat, and the young disciple reacts with perfect timing. Knowing the weakness is one thing, but maintaining that perfect distance against a beast is a nightmare. The Black Wolf captain is a relentless hunter, constantly invading their space to maintain his lethal advantage. The muscular elder gathers his strength, diving from above to deliver a heavy, earth-shaking overhead blow. John realizes the fatal error by retreating. His allies are giving the captain the momentum he craves. Their defensive posture allows the enemy to dictate the flow, narrowing the distance into a death trap. They must abandon passive defense for active manipulation, stepping forward to disrupt the captain's rhythm. But with the captain in a flow state, his raw strength makes it nearly impossible to force a retreat. To stop this monster, they need a warrior whose internal power can match the captain's crushing chi. Right now, the captain's aura acts like an immovable mountain, suffocating the spirits of the three masters. Yet, John sees further. The captain's strategy is a high-stakes gamble disguised as mindless brute force. The young disciple finally understands. The captain pours every ounce of power into his very first strike. It is a suicidal gamble, discarding all defense to focus entirely on a single, absolute offensive move. A confident smirk forms on the disciple's face as he prepares to break the captain's reckless rhythm. With an explosion of sword intent, the boy lunges into the center of the storm, parrying the blow. The bruised elder steps aside, watching in pure shock as the slender youth takes over the battlefield. He can't fathom how a boy who looks so fragile can stand toe-to-toe with the Black Wolf captain. Covered in dust and blood, the elder retreats to John's side, his eyes wide at the boy's prowess. He dismisses his wounds as minor scratches, his focus entirely on the impossible battle unfolding before them. Everything rests on the young disciple's shoulders. Will John's brilliant strategy be enough to slay the beast? The elder finally realizes that despite the boy's youth, his talent belongs to a different realm entirely. Even the masters couldn't gauge this boy's depth, a young prodigy invited to the solitary sect. If he survives this encounter, he's a variable we must investigate with absolute scrutiny. Sword Phoenix stood frozen in awe at the sheer, overwhelming magnitude of his internal energy. The junior disciple unleashed his full power, desperately trying to suppress the enemy's advance. But the captain roared in defiance, his stance as immovable as an ancient iron mountain. With one devastating swing, the boy was sent soaring like a bird caught in a gale. Unbeaten Sword intervened immediately, realizing the boy had already pushed past his limits. With a masterful mid-air flip, the boy landed gracefully to report the battlefield's shifting tide. He sensed the enemy's prowess matched the veteran masters, yet a strange anomaly remained. It defied logic. If their power was equal, why was the buff uncle being forced back? The realization struck like lightning. The enemy possessed a godlike advantage in pure speed. Jianghu's eyes sharpened with 2,000 IQ insight. He finally decoded the secret of the distance. Without claiming any glory, the boy pointed to the true mastermind behind this revelation. They faced a lethal paradox: the enemy's perfect control over the spacing of the duel. Jianghu's genius brain sparked a counter: if you can't escape, simply eliminate the gap. The veteran uncle instantly grasped the logic, neutralized the enemy's optimal striking range. With a sinister grin and the strategist's approval, he gripped his massive, heavy blade. With raw, terrifying strength, he snapped the thick steel in half to shorten his reach. Realizing he was technically equal to the Black Wolf captain, his lost confidence returned tenfold. Like a predator sensing blood, he leaped into the fray with newfound, childish excitement. The junior wondered how a non-martial artist could see flaws that experts completely missed. It was a moment of pure shock. Jianghu had zero combat experience, yet saw everything. Sword Phoenix bowed in her heart, realizing she was witnessing an unimaginable tactical talent. He possessed a mind that could conquer Murim, yet he remained oblivious to his greatness. Jianghu began weaving his web, ordering the redistribution of their entire military force. The veteran would stall the captain alone while the others executed a swift, tactical retreat. They would shift from a defensive square into the legendary, lethal, crane wing formation. The formation would lure the pursuers into a central trap before the wings snapped shut. A pincer movement with no escape, the ultimate intellectual domination of the battlefield. The boy was awestruck by the strategy, but worried about relaying such a complex command. But the grand strategist was 3 steps ahead. The command was simplified to Formation 2. The junior disciple prepared his secret trump card, the earth-shattering lion's roar technique. It was a sound that could pierce the horizon, echoing across the vast, empty plains. He warned Jianghu to cover his ears or risk being plunged into eternal silence. A titanic aura flared from the boy as his eyes glowed with a fierce, divine light. By the strategist's command, Transition to the second formation immediately. The roar thundered across the world, drowning out the chaotic screams of the bloody battle. Even the Black Wolf captain broke into a cold sweat, paralyzed by the sudden shift. He realized too late that he wasn't fighting soldiers, he was fighting a grand mastermind. Exploiting the captain's distraction, the veteran uncle lunged forward with a devastating strike. As steel clashed, Sword Phoenix stood speechless at the sheer power of the boy's roar, but Ji Young's face turned pale. The boy had just shouted his secret title to everyone. His identity as the strategist was exposed, he had just painted a target on his head. The Black Wolf captain's gaze locked onto Ji Young, identifying the brain behind the army. As the troops shifted like a living tide, the true hunt for the genius began. He sprinted forward like a gale, baiting the cultist dogs into his intricate web according to plan. The legendary crane wing formation snapped shut. The trap was sprung as they entered the shifting sands. Despite his brilliant strategy, Ji Young's face was ghostly pale, looking like a man facing his funeral. "My life ends here," he wailed. Sword Phoenix sighed, exhausted by his constant and overly dramatic theatrics. She quickly offered her protection, promising that no one would lay a finger on the cowardly strategist. With the little junior brother's hidden potential, Ji Young finally felt his precious life might be saved. Every enemy strike was now perfectly neutralized. The captain gnashed his teeth in pure, unadulterated frustration. He felt it clearly. This old man was no longer the weakling he faced just moments ago. This transformation was clearly the work of the boy. Ji Young was the mastermind controlling the battlefield. Infuriated, the captain swung a devastating blow to vent his wrath, nearly shattering the uncle's guard. The Black Wolf captain's eyes glowed with predatory hunger. He had found the brain of the operation. Trusting his instincts, he pivoted to kill Ji Young. But the uncle's mockery cut deeper than steel. "Is this your excuse for failure?" The uncle sneered, ridiculing the captain's pathetic attempts to win. "How miserable. You target a weakling with zero martial arts? Have you no shame as a warrior?" The captain snapped. He gripped the hilt and hurled his weapon, transforming it into a spinning wheel. The blade screamed toward the uncle. Even as he dodged, he failed to see the hidden trap. It was a smokescreen. The captain surged forward instantly, closing the distance to strike his true mark. He drove an elbow into the uncle's old wound. Blood sprayed as the ruthless combo continued relentlessly. Using the uncle's knee as a springboard, he leaped high to reclaim his sword mid-air. He charged at Ji Young, desperate to eliminate the dangerous seed before it grew into a catastrophe. Ji Young stood frozen, his face white. Fear had seemingly nailed his feet to the blood-stained earth. Luckily, two guardians blurred into motion, standing firm between the master strategist and certain death. The junior brother lunged to intercept, but the captain bypassed him with godlike speed and precision. In a blink, he evaded the Sword Phoenix and appeared before Ji Young with a lethal strike. Sword Phoenix intervened just in time, shoving Ji Young back while blocking the heavy executioner's blow. But the captain was like a ghost, slipping past her defense once more to pursue his target. From the heavens, the junior brother descended like a falling star to shield the brilliant mastermind. "To touch him, you must walk over my corpse." He unleashed a flurry of rapid, relentless strikes. Sword Phoenix joined the fray, honoring her promise to keep Ji Young alive at any cost. Their desperate defense bought precious time, allowing the invincible sword to finally reclaim the battle's momentum. "Get Ji Young to safety! Run!" the master roared, taking over the fight against the desperate captain. Sword Phoenix grabbed Ji Young's collar, dragging him away like a sack toward the wounded uncle. The uncle was pale and drenched in sweat, his internal injuries clearly ravaging his large frame. Though agony twisted his features, he refused to falter, forcing himself to swallow the rising blood. He hadn't expected the Black Wolf captain to be this powerful. The man was a true monster. Yet, his sacrifice worked. He had drained the captain's stamina, giving the invincible sword the advantage. Now, the invincible sword dominated, unleashing the Kunlun 18 strikes to crush the remaining enemy resistance. But the captain was supernatural, dodging lethal projectiles with incredible agility that defied all human logic. The junior brother watched in horror, praying the invincible sword could hold out just a bit longer. Suddenly, Ji Young's expression shifted to shock. "I wish they would stay there a little longer." Sword Phoenix understood instantly. The heavenly ghost blade, Big Un-Ho, had finally caught their scent. She scanned the horizon with sharp eyes, searching for the shadow of that terrifying, legendary monster. Ji Young pointed toward the distance. It wasn't the sunset he saw, but a far darker omen. The very atmosphere was warping. A suffocating pressure arrived, sending a chill down to their souls. His genius brain had sensed the beast. The air itself reeked of Big Unho's murderous intent. Darkness swallowed the battlefield. Even the youngest disciple felt the suffocating pressure of the approaching storm. John's prediction was chillingly accurate. The heavenly demon blade, Unha, was closing in with godlike speed. Panic gripped the ranks. They feared the entire demonic cult's main army was descending upon them. But the mastermind John knew better. Unho's arrogance was his weakness. He was coming completely alone. As the veteran prepared a reckless charge, John's cold, strategic command halted the warriors' desperation. The priority was efficiency. They had to end this skirmish before the true monster arrived. Every enemy eliminated now was a tactical advantage. They needed to thin the ranks immediately. The veteran instantly understood the genius move. It was time to execute strategy number 3. John's eyes burned with cold determination. The Murim chessboard was set for his next maneuver. With a thunderous roar, the veteran charged. Unbeatable blade. We switched to the third tactical formation. The tide began to turn. Unbeatable blade pushed his opponent back with a devastating, heavy strike. "I'll handle this fool," he shouted. "Go signal the brothers to establish the third array." Ignored like a mere insect, the enemy captain's face twisted into a mask of pure fury. Unbeatable blade unleashed his ultimate technique. 18 spectral blades rained down like a sharp steel storm. The enemy laughed, dismissing the illusions. He foolishly believed he was untouchable until the final moment. In a desperate gamble, the captain hurled his weapon. A cold steel flash pierced the air. Blood sprayed as the blade struck home. Yet, Unbeatable Blade didn't flinch despite the agonizing pain. He used his own body as a trap to seize the weapon, then soared into the air. A blinding arc of steel followed. The enemy's face was carved open in one brutal, decisive stroke. Screams of agony filled the air. Despite the hole in his chest, Unbeatable Blade stood firm. Gritting his teeth, he ripped the sword from his own flesh. Both warriors collapsed simultaneously. Blood soaked the earth. Yet, the Unbeatable Blade refused to let death claim him today. Driven by the vengeful spirits of the Kunlun sect, he stood to deliver the final execution. He raised his sword for the kill, but a hand suddenly gripped his shaking, bloody arm. "Stop! John wants him alive." The younger disciple delivered the master's brilliant strategic command. Confusion and rage flickered in the veteran's eyes as John's cold logic took full effect. The heavenly demon was mere seconds away. The very air began to vibrate with pure malice. Trembling from blood loss, the Unbeatable Blade's legs finally gave way under the intense pressure. With lightning precision, the disciple sealed the enemy's pressure points and hoisted him away. They retreated with desperate speed, racing back to the central command before the monster hit. "Form the Golden Seal Array," the sect leader roared, desperately trying to organize the chaos. Retreating was a nightmare. Their brothers were falling one by one under the relentless, dark assault. Yet none faltered. Dying on the battlefield was the ultimate honor for these legendary Murim warriors. The muscular veteran moved like a whirlwind, clearing the path before the main force arrived. Time was their greatest enemy. Every second counted before Unho's shadow swallowed them all whole. The field was littered with the fallen. Amidst the carnage, John remained eerily calm and focused. Could one man truly slaughter 100 masters? John weighed the legends against the coming reality. Tension snapped like a bowstring. The younger disciple knew they were facing a literal god of war. Their numbers were dwindling faster than calculated. John's 2,000 IQ mind raced to find a path. Unho's solitary arrival wasn't foolishness. It was a declaration of absolute, overwhelming power and dominance. "Focus on the Black Wolf Squad," John commanded, refusing to let panic cloud his cold intellect. The disadvantage was crushing. A total offensive was their only remaining gamble for absolute survival. "How is the Unbeatable Blade?" John asked, his mind already calculating the next tactical sacrifice. The hero was desperately circulating his inner chi. The internal damage was far worse than expected. They had underestimated the Black Wolf captain. In the Murim, even a dying wolf bites deep. Exhausted to his very core, he didn't hesitate to pour every drop of internal energy into one final, desperate strike. Just as he decided to let the invincible blade rest for the coming battle, his younger disciple froze in absolute terror. A bone-chilling presence had arrived. They both sensed it instantly. The monster known as Unha was finally here. Hearts racing, they scanned the chaotic battlefield until the disciples' trembling finger pointed toward a surging, dark energy. A vortex of infinite power was tearing through the ranks, a calamity sweeping away everything in its path like a hurricane. Warriors fell like autumn leaves in a single breath. The nightmare had a name: the Heavenly Demon Blade, Big Un-ho. His eyes glowed with a murderous crimson light as he stood amidst the carnage of the defeated, broken soldiers. With a twisted, sadistic smirk, he surveyed the madness, whispering that he had arrived just in time for the slaughter. A cold shiver raced down Yi Yong's spine. He couldn't believe this monster was the same passionate youth from 11 years ago. That boy was dead, replaced by a bloodthirsty executioner whose very presence turned the air into ice and paralyzed the soul. Un-ho moved like a flickering shadow. With a single casual wave of his hand, 5 men were sent to their graves. With a maniacal grin, he danced through the carnage, slaughtering everyone in his path like a demon unleashed from hell. Witnessing their brothers fall so effortlessly, the remaining warriors were rooted to the spot by pure, unadulterated horror. An endless abyss of fear swallowed their hearts. They realized they weren't facing a man, but a god of death. They knew resistance was futile, yet the leader of the secret arts squad stepped forward through the trembling ranks. Their eyes locked in a silent, deadly clash. As they waited for the first move, the heavens suddenly began to weep. Rain washed the battlefield as the secret arts leader stood defiant against the overwhelming pressure of the Heavenly Demon Blade. The leader's face twisted in sheer annoyance, but Un-ho looked at him with nothing but pure, cold indifference. Being treated like a mere insect fueled the leader's rage, pushing his killing intent to its absolute breaking point. To earn a place in Un-ho's memory, one had to prove they weren't just another worthless, nameless corpse. Infuriated by such arrogance, the leader lunged forward, unleashing his most refined sword techniques in a desperate strike. But Un-ho evaded the attack with ghostly ease, moving with a speed that defied every law of physics. The leader's desperate struggle was mere entertainment for Un-ho, who mocked his futile efforts with a chilling laugh. As Un-ho countered with a lightning-fast strike of his own, the air itself seemed to scream in pure agony. The leader barely managed to dodge, a feat that finally sparked a flicker of genuine interest in the demon's eyes. Un-ho finally unleashed a true skill, charging forward with a thrust so precise it felt like the stroke of destiny. The leader realized this overwhelming speed and power was still only a fraction of Un-ho's true, terrifying potential. A momentary lapse in focus was all it took. The leader was sent hurtling back by a devastating, bone-shattering impact. Gritting his teeth in frustration, he realized the painful truth. They were not even fighting in the same realm of power. Un-ho was a force of nature, far exceeding every nightmare and calculation they had ever made about his strength. He was on a level above even the Black Wolf leader, a man Un-ho had almost forgotten entirely. Hearing of his comrade's defeat, Un-ho didn't show concern, but rather a chilling, predatory curiosity about the outcome. A dark smile played on his lips while his eyes burned with a murderous intent that suffocated the entire area. He demanded to know who had the strength to take down his peer, his gaze sharpening like a divine blade. His genius brain instantly pinpointed the strategist in the back as the true architect behind the entire operation. With that realization, Un-ho's aura shifted into something truly lethal, confirming his next objective with terrifying clarity. If the Black Wolf was captured, he decided that claiming the head of an alliance leader was only fair. Blatantly insulted, the leader's fury exploded as he gripped his sword, channeling every ounce of his internal energy. He chose an honorable death over such humiliation. But before he could even move, the world suddenly blurred. In the blink of an eye, Un-ho was standing right in front of him, closing the distance effortlessly. His movements were too fast and too dangerous to evade. The secret arts leader was now completely at his mercy. A hand like an iron vice crushed his throat, leaving him writhing in a desperate, futile struggle for a single breath. His eyes bulged in agony as he coughed up blood, trapped in a grip more predatory than any wild beast. Watching his victim struggle for life only fueled Un-ho's sadistic pleasure, his excitement growing with every desperate gasp. Instead of dealing a killing blow, he tossed the leader aside, ruthlessly sealing his vital acupoints to prolong the suffering. Tossed over a shoulder like a heavy sack, the strategist's unconscious form was hauled away as chaos erupted. A sea of black-clad assassins suddenly swarmed the horizon. The Heavenly Wolf Sect arrived with terrifying, bloodthirsty momentum. Every soldier stood ready to embrace death. Their only goal? To carve a path of vengeance for fallen brothers. The skirmish ignited into a brutal melee. However, the sheer weight of the enemy's numbers began to crush them. These weren't mere grunts. The Heavenly Wolf elites were professional killers. They dominated through both raw power and coordination. As the deathmatch reached a fever pitch, Ji Young's group felt the suffocating pressure of the approaching storm. Sword Phoenix felt the sting of a broken promise. She couldn't just watch. Her blade hungered for the fray. Standing idle was no longer an option. She had to join her brothers in this dance of cold steel. But in this meat grinder, even a master like her might never return. Her little junior brother spoke up. Our sole mission is protecting the strategist. Death is irrelevant as long as the brain of our army survives. Yet, her heart bled seeing her comrades fall one by one. The battlefield was becoming a graveyard of heroes. Suddenly, a sight stopped her heart. Her eyes widened in pure shock at the scene unfolding before her. Wounded warriors, bodies wrapped in blood-soaked bandages, rose again. Despite their agony, they formed a human shield. They knew Ji Young's intellect was their only salvation. To protect the strategist was to protect their collective future. Gratitude fueled their dying breaths. As long as a single heart beat, no enemy would touch the strategist's shadow. Witnessing such absolute loyalty, Ji Young's eyes burned. The weight of their lives pressed heavily upon his brilliant mind. He was trapped in a mental deadlock. He couldn't end the slaughter, nor could he simply abandon his shield. Escape was a coward's path, yet staying seemed like certain doom for everyone involved in this desperate struggle. But his junior brother saw the truth. Behind that mask of cowardice lay a heart that refused to abandon anyone. Ji Young wasn't running. He was calculating. This time, the 2000 IQ genius was getting dead serious. A single opening was all he needed. If the heavenly ghost blade, Unho, brought only 50 men, success was possible. A quick glance revealed the grim reality. The Heavenly Wolf forces numbered well over 200 elite killers. Against such odds, Ji Young claimed he could guarantee their survival and a perfect escape. Sword Phoenix was baffled. How is that even possible? She questioned. The enemy count was rising, defying every law of martial logic. With eyes like sharpened steel, Ji Young stood firm. His plan relied on the one thing he understood best: psychology. The target was Unho himself. The soldiers looked on, their minds unable to process this inhuman level of strategy. What kind of madness is this? They wondered. His thoughts belonged to a realm far beyond ordinary human comprehension. Luckily, Sword Phoenix finally caught the thread of his genius. They had to strike before the monster arrived. They needed to cull the enemy ranks before Unho reached the field. But the situation was far from simple. The Martial Alliance wasn't just fighting one man. They were drowning in the endless waves of the Heavenly Wolf. Despite her doubts, Ji Young offered no explanation. He simply told her to watch his grand design unfold. Even the junior brother thought the plan was insane. But before he could argue, a new voice cut through. "I'm curious as well," the voice echoed. Ji Young nearly jumped out of his skin in pure shock. The invincible sword had finally awakened. Relief washed over them as they rushed to check his critical wounds. Was his internal damage still severe? They looked for any sign of recovery in the legendary master's weary eyes. With a gaze that could cut through stone, the master demanded a full report on the current battlefield disaster. Ji Young gave a lightning-fast summary. "We must retreat before we are swallowed whole. Explanations come later." He tasked the invincible sword with rallying the troops. They needed the master's presence to stabilize the crumbling line. He ordered the junior brother to use his thunderous voice. "Tell them all to pull back. Now." The boy's internal energy flared like a sun. His tiger's roar shook the very foundations of the Murim world. "Fall back by order of the strategist." The command echoed across the blood-stained earth, reaching every soldier's ears. The invincible sword charged forward, a whirlwind of steel covering the retreat as the sun began to rise. Dawn brought a temporary ceasefire. The two armies separated, leaving a tension-filled vacuum on the scorched battlefield. The enemy still held the secret technique leader hostage, while Ji Young's exhausted forces stood guard from afar. They had suffered heavy losses, but hope remained. Every eye was now fixed on Ji Young, awaiting his next move. Every soldier obeyed instantly, their faith in his tactical genius absolute and completely unquestioned. Curiously, the enemy remained frozen, paralyzed by the sheer weight of his calculated tactical presence. They watched in awe as Ji Young moved, a grandmaster playing a lethal game of Murim chess. The Unho army hesitated, fearing his sudden retreat was merely a bait for a deadly ambush. Even the sect leader was skeptical, wondering if this simple ploy could truly deceive such monsters. But Ji Yong knew better. A simple trick wouldn't stop a fox as cunning as the legendary Un-ho. He saw through the enemy's hesitation. Un-ho was baited by intense curiosity, not by fear. According to his memories, the heavenly demon blade possessed a terrifying, predator-like intuition. He was a monster who moved like lightning, yet Ji Yong remained calm, cold, and calculating. Ignoring the sect leader's shock, Ji Yong prioritized his master plan, the subtle art of negotiation. He commanded his disciple to bring the captured Black Wolf captain as their primary bargaining chip. The boy easily hoisted the heavy captain, while the invincible sword watched with growing dread. Could a blood-soaked war truly be ended with words alone? The veteran warrior highly doubted it. With no other choice, they waited. The fate of the entire sect rested on this gamble. 3 figures marched toward the enemy lines, carrying a hostage directly into the lion's den. Un-ho mirrored the move, bringing his own pawn forward as the 2 masterminds finally met. Ji Yong stared into those familiar eyes, wondering if the legend remembered the boy from years ago. A heavy silence descended, thick with killing intent, until Un-ho finally broke the mounting tension. "Are you the brain behind the Alliance's reinforcements?" Un-ho's voice was sharp as a blade. Ji Yong smiled. "It seems you've forgotten me," he said, sending shockwaves through the entire battlefield. Un-ho's eyes narrowed into icy slits, his suspicion turning into a sharp and defensive edge. To Un-ho, he was a stranger. To the world, Un-ho was still the brilliant, shining sun. But the boy who once looked up was now the man who looked right through him. "Fine then," Ji Yong shrugged, casting aside the past to focus on the cold, hard present. The phoenix sword sensed his hidden melancholy, her heart aching for her silent, mysterious companion. Ji Yong bowed mockingly. "I am merely a porter, a simple traveler caught in your grand war." He claimed to be a commoner expelled from his home, a lie woven with absolute perfection. A mere porter leading an army? The sheer absurdity of it made Un-ho laugh in disbelief. Yet in this chaotic Murim world, the impossible was the only thing one could truly trust. Un-ho's gaze sharpened. This meeting wasn't a coincidence. It felt like the heavy pull of destiny. "Join me," Un-ho proposed, his eyes gleaming with the desire to possess such a brilliant intellect. The phoenix sword gasped. The enemy was trying to steal their most precious tactical treasure. Un-ho poured out sweet promises, offering power and luxury in exchange for his 2,000 IQ mind. "I am just a porter," Ji Yong repeated, baiting the hook with his expertly feigned humility. Un-ho saw only a rough diamond, a genius he could polish into a god-tier Murim weapon. Then came the venomous threat. If he couldn't possess Ji Yong's mind, no one else would. The hidden message was clear: submit to his will, or be erased from this world forever. The phoenix sword bristled with rage, but Un-ho only smiled, radiating a suffocating killing intent. He looked down upon them like a predator who had already cornered his helpless, tiny prey. While the others trembled, Ji Yong's face remained a mask of calm, completely unreadable and cold. Un-ho drew his blade, the cold steel reflecting his demand for an immediate, life-altering answer. The phoenix sword and disciple took their stances, refusing to let their leader fall alone. He stood at the precipice of fate, where a single word would decide his ultimate destiny. "Die for a useless cause, or join my cult and rule the heavens," Un-ho sneered. The phoenix sword's teeth gritted in fury. True loyalty was something a demon could never understand. Knowing someone for a long time doesn't make this choice easier. Now, he holds ultimate power. Countless lives are in his hands. Every warrior has entrusted their very soul to a mere, lowly porter. Whether righteous heroes or dark villains, they all rise to shield Ji Yong. That immense trust has become a heavy burden. He has no choice but to remain the Martial Arts Alliance's supreme strategist. Despite the handsome youth's desperate pleas for him to reconsider, Ji Yong remains cold. His face is like a calm lake, utterly unfazed by the looming threat. "Just kill me," Ji Yong declares. In a flash, Un-ho appears directly before his eyes. A devastating strike descends, but Phoenix Sword parries the blow, leaving the monster shocked. He tosses her aside like a leaf. Immediately, the little disciple rushes in to intervene. The boy takes a brutal hit. Phoenix Sword coughs blood. Un-ho's strength is truly demonic. Seeing their allies fall, the old uncle and the others prepare to charge into the fray. But the sect leader stops them. "Keep watching," he commands. We must observe further. The muscular uncle trembles with anxiety. If this continues, blood will paint the entire battlefield. There is no more time to watch this drama unfold. Un-ho is moving for the kill. He aims to erase Jae-yong's existence. Yet, the sect leader holds on to a singular, burning faith. Everything will be fine. They must trust Jae-yong's previous plan and wait for the signal. Facing the heavenly demon blade's pressure, the little disciple is drenched in a cold sweat. Jae-yong asks calmly, "Do you truly wish to kill me?" Un-ho grinds his teeth in fury. He repeats his vow. "If I cannot possess this diamond, I will crush it into dust." With a poker face, Jae-yong counters, "Even if I fall, this grand war will never end." Un-ho has made his choice. He will slaughter every soul here before the sun sets. The strategist sighs at his fate. Why is he dragged into the center of this Murim chaos? He was just a bystander who stumbled into this. Now, they all look to him as a god. They value and protect him. But Un-ho scoffs, calling their loyalty a mere psychological delusion. In the face of despair, the weak seek a pillar. But on this field, only one is truly strong. The heavenly demon blade Un-ho stands alone. Yet even he acknowledges Jae-yong's terrifying brilliance. It is not martial arts, but Jae-yong's mind that shines. Even at death's door, his intellect glows. His expression remains stone-cold and fearless. His every move radiates a quiet, calculated courage. It is not that he lacks fear. He simply knows fear cannot stop a master's lethal blade. Un-ho's sword is a blur of death. Looking at the boy, a forgotten memory resurfaces. Long ago, Un-ho met someone just like him. A memory that left a permanent scar. He remembers a child walking through a bloody battlefield without a single weapon in hand. He was enraged by that boy's lack of fear. He screamed, yet the child stood firm. Now he realizes. That child from 11 years ago is the man standing before him. Young Jae-yong believed weapons were for fools. He sought a different path to total dominance. The memory of Jae-yong claiming to see the path to victory makes Un-ho shiver. Jae-yong remembers it too. Back then, no one believed in the impossible strategy he devised. Who could have imagined that retreating was the key to absolute victory? They were all blind. Only Un-ho had the vision to trust him. He remembers the commander's ruthless decision. Un-ho had ordered the retreat. Jae-yong knew then that this man would become a legend. The current battle rages on. Un-ho effortlessly deflects the little disciple's desperate, frantic attacks. But his heart is in the past. He smirks, finally recognizing the genius of Jae-yong. But the boy has changed. Now, thousands hang on his every word, ready to die. To these people, Jae-yong is their only hope. He is the heart of the alliance. If Un-ho kills that hope, the world will burn. Their collective rage will consume everything. The stage is set for a clash of titans, a war destined to burn until the final breath. Until dawn breaks, the Sichuan branch held by the demonic cult faces a reclaimed strike from the Qingcheng sect. This realization halts Un-ho in his tracks. A surprise raid means his heavenly wolf guards are sitting ducks. His elite squad at the city gates will be annihilated. Un-ho's eyes widen as a chilling truth dawns. The Qingcheng sect is missing from the Alliance's main force. They aren't here to fight. They're a phantom army. They are the second reinforcement wave heading for Sichuan. This was Ji-young's masterstroke, a calculated diversion. Un-ho's fatal blunder was overextending his forces here, leaving his stronghold in Sichuan completely unguarded and empty. Sword Phoenix finally understands. This is why Ji-young claimed more enemies here, meant a higher survival rate. Ji-young played Un-ho like a fiddle, exploiting his fatal flaw, his unwavering loyalty to his subordinates. He knew the commander wouldn't abandon his men in Sichuan. The trap was set, cornering him with no escape. He offered two paths: retreat to save his brothers, or stay and bleed against the Murim alliance. Caught in a checkmate he never saw coming, Un-ho lashes out in a blind, thunderous rage. A devastating strike sends the junior disciple flying back. Then, Un-ho vanishes, reappearing instantly before Ji-young. His speed is supernatural. Even Sword Phoenix, standing right there, cannot react in time to save him. It's too late. Un-ho's blade is already in motion, a lethal arc aimed straight at Ji-young's chest. The blade cleaves through. The alliance leaders freeze in horror, their eyes nearly popping out of their heads. The junior brother and Sword Phoenix watch helplessly. Yet, Ji-young remains eerily calm, his expression like stone. He doesn't flinch. The killing blow dissipates into thin air the moment it touches his skin. It was a phantom. Eun-ho never intended to kill him. This was his response to Ji-young's bold recruitment offer. Next time, he promises a real answer. Eun-ho's gaze burns with a terrifying, lingering threat. I won't let you off so easily again. His eyes scream before he turns his back on the battlefield. He orders his men to leave the secret arts leader and carry their wounded captain back home. The sudden retreat leaves everyone baffled. What just happened? Eun-ho, however, is moving at lightning speed. Racing back to Sichuan, he recalls Ji-young's infuriatingly smug face and can't help but let out a laugh. What a fascinating man. You will be mine, he muses. With their departure, the tension finally snaps. The alliance leader stands in disbelief. Have they truly retreated? The blood-soaked plains finally fall silent. The survivors gather behind their unlikely savior, Ji-young. Uncle Du rushes to check on the fallen leader. He sighs in relief. Only his pressure points were sealed. He'll survive. The danger has passed for now. The leader asks Ji-young what magic words he used to force such a terrifying enemy to flee. Suddenly, Ji-young's legs give out. The facade of the genius strategist crumbles as he collapses. Everyone gasps, but he's simply exhausted. Staring down the god of death takes a toll on the soul. Sword Phoenix recovers first, urgently telling her father they must send reinforcements to Sichuan to aid Qing Cheng. They must reclaim the city before the heavenly ghost blade returns. Her father just blinks in total confusion. He has no idea what she's talking about. He never sent orders to the Qing Cheng sect to mobilize. Sword Phoenix freezes. Ji-young explicitly stated the alliance leader was executing the grand plan right now. Her pupils dilate as the shocking realization hits her. The entire backup army was nothing but a massive lie. Ji-young bluffed the most dangerous man in Murim with a complete fabrication. He played everyone for fools. The leader only requested help from the MA sect, not Qing Cheng. The junior brother and Sword Phoenix share a look. They were tricked just as badly as the enemy. Ji-young finally speaks up, his voice weak but steady. Eun-ho chose the path of a hero. Even without a tactical victory, he saved his brother's lives today. Only a true hero abandons an easy victory to protect his kin. That is the burden of leadership. They choose the difficult path, and in return, people will follow them to the very gates of hell. Today, the heavenly ghost blade chose that path. Ji-young's lie was merely the catalyst for his decision. Whether it was a lie or truth doesn't matter. Eun-ho didn't hesitate when he heard his brothers were dying. That is the mark of a legend. Today's gamble is a double-edged sword, yet it remains his most legendary masterstroke. To those watching, he isn't just a man, he is a savior walking the path of legends. This benefactor, following in the footsteps of the greats, is none other than our protagonist, Jae-young. Soon, his 2000 IQ will awaken, and his brilliant mind will rewrite the world's fate. As the war against the cult ignites, the Murim alliance trembles in suffocating tension. Rumors of Jae-young's brilliance explode across the Murim, overshadowing every warrior on the battlefield. They hail him as the alliance's grand strategist, the hidden hand guiding them through the storm. Every impossible victory is credited to Jae-young's transcendent, superhuman brain. An ancient master watches the hype, contemplating the meteoric rise of this young tactical genius. Jae-young's fame eclipses the greatest stars, yet some whispers sound too miraculous to be true. These absurd feats leave the old master sweating, questioning the very reality of his existence. Could he have unmasked a spy disguised within the MA sect with such cold precision? Even if he smelled a trap, could his mind remain calm before the heavenly demon's blade? Despite his decades of combat experience, the old master finds no perfect answer to such brilliance. Jae-young's tactical maneuvers defy all logic, leaving even the most seasoned veterans in utter shock. Staring into the distance, he wonders who this man truly is behind the mask of greatness. Beneath the falling cherry blossoms, a silver-haired master moves with the grace of a god. This middle-aged warrior dances with his blade, each strike a poetic display of lethal elegance. A single, effortless swing bisects a petal, a testament to his terrifyingly refined martial arts. Though bored to death, his body moves by instinct, a habit forged through countless battles. His old friend notices that itch the burning desire to return to the front lines once more. Their eyes meet in silent understanding, two old souls sharing a bond deeper than blood. His heart yearns for Sichuan, where the demonic cult's shadow swallows the Central Plains whole. As the alliance leader, he refuses to sit idly while the world burns around him. This man is the lord of the Murim alliance, a beast trapped in a gilded cage. He craves the chaos of the front lines, refusing to watch his comrades die from afar. He wishes to stand shoulder to shoulder with his men, bathing in the fire of true combat. But if the leader moves, the Lightning Emperor will descend, escalating this war into an apocalypse. Frustrated at being read like an open book, the leader scowls at his perceptive old friend. "Stop peeking into my soul," he grumbles. "It's embarrassing to have my ambitions laid bare." For years, they've stood together, building the alliance into a force that commands the great sects. Flattery brings a blush to the great leader's face, shattering his stoic, legendary persona. "Stop it. I'm not that great," he stammers, as his friend laughs at his rare humility. But the laughter fades as the conversation turns to a matter requiring the leader's final judgment. They speak of Jianghu, the rising superstar whose name now rings through every corner of Murim. Even the great leader acknowledges him a young strategist with a mind that rivals the gods. Yet, his records are hollow, a mere porter who served in the shadows for years. Despite investigating every detail of his life, a chilling doubt lingers in the old master's mind. How could a lowly luggage carrier command armies with such flawless, godlike precision? "You're just jealous of his talent," the leader scoffs, seeing through his friend's skepticism. A sharp glare silences the bickering, but the old scholar's expression turns deadly serious. He admits to the envy, but his logical mind uncovers a far more terrifying possibility. What if Jianghu is a high-level spy, a Trojan horse planted deep within the alliance? He theorizes that every victory was a carefully orchestrated play by the demonic cult itself, a grand deception designed to make the alliance place its absolute faith in a monster. Could these fateful encounters truly be mere coincidences? Jianghu's meeting with the Sword Phoenix felt far too calculated. Exposing a spy within the Sect? It wasn't luck. It was a masterfully executed plan by a genius. Shocking news confirmed that Jianghu shared a mysterious, hidden past with the legendary heavenly ghost blade, Unho. Even as old acquaintances, the tension between them was thick, as if they guarded secrets that could shatter Murim. A fierce debate erupted. Spy or not, his strategic brilliance was undeniable, achieving a victory beyond all imagination. Jianghu was on the verge of reclaiming Sichuan, heralding the birth of a monstrous strategist who manipulated the heavens. By saving the alliance reinforcements, he became a living legend and a terrifying variable that no one could control. Faith in Jianghu grew like a storm. Soon, every word from his lips would weigh as heavy as mountains. Doubts remained. If Jianghu was indeed a double agent, he could lead the entire army into a bottomless abyss. The great teacher faced a heavy choice. Should he grant Jianghu a seat among the Murim's 4 great strategists? The alliance leader understood. Keep the genius close. Keep him under a watchful eye to prevent a global catastrophe. Meanwhile, Jianghu headed home with Sword Phoenix and his junior brother, leaving the blood-soaked battlefield far behind them. On the long road, the curious boy wondered why Sword Phoenix dressed as a man despite her obvious features. Seeing Jianghu lost in deep thought, the boy prepared to pester him with questions about his uncanny strategic foresight. He wondered why Jianghu had trusted a mere child to be his protector. What did the strategist truly see? The boy had never shown his true power. To any normal eye, he was just an ordinary, unremarkable kid. But he forgot the moment he unleashed his legendary strength to save Jianghu from plummeting into a dark abyss. The boy fell silent, realizing he had used far more power than intended. Had he exposed his hidden secret? Jianghu knew more. He sensed the boy was still holding back his true, devastating potential during the last battle. Startled, the boy's eyes filled with suspicion. How could a man without internal energy see through a master? It was impossible. Logic dictated that only a master could read another. To him, Jianghu was a complete enigma. Because Jianghu lacked martial arts, he perfected the art of observation, reading every flicker of intent in others. When asked why he never learned to fight, the answer was simple: poverty. Survival always came before the sword. He had tried once, but martial arts isn't like reading. It demands a lifetime of blood and absolute dedication. To become a true master, one must sacrifice everything. It is a path forged in iron, not just ink. Looking at his own frail, scholarly frame, Jianghu knew he lacked the innate talent to walk the martial path. The boy delivered a stinging blow. "You really know your limits. You look healthy, but you're actually quite weak. Inside, you're just a sick cat." But Jianghu's past weaknesses were about to become his greatest future weapons. Jianghu had a change of heart. In this chaotic world, relying solely on others was a gamble too risky. He refused to be a burden. To survive the coming storms, he needed the power to protect his life. He made an unexpected proposal. Become my master. Teach me to survive while you guard my back forever. Back in Sichuan, the vice commander of the Heavenly Wolf reported movements from the Qingcheng and Tang clans. They were watching but hadn't struck. Unho finally realized he had been played by Jiang's massive, brilliant bluff. The vice commander was moved to tears. Had they stayed, they would have been slaughtered by the enemies in wait. Yet, the mood shifted instantly. Jiang had used their lives as pawns in a daring gamble that fooled everyone. Unho was stunned. He fell for Jiang's bold lies without hesitation. But perhaps he simply wanted to believe. He chose to trust the strategist's vision. That choice had saved the entire Black Wolf squad from certain death. They returned successful, keeping pride intact by prioritizing the lives of their brothers over a meaningless, bloody war. Just as Jiang predicted, they withdrew without shedding a drop of blood, yet they still claimed all of Sichuan. But the storm wasn't over. The demonic cult's young leader was shifting all blame onto the Sichuan invasion force. The vice commander seethed with rage. That coward only knew how to bark orders while others bled for him. When things turned sour, he was nowhere. But now, it seemed the young leader was finally getting serious. He was approaching with 2,000 elite warriors and 5 elders, a force capable of leveling entire Murim provinces. Intelligence revealed the terrifying Bloodhand leader was among the 5 elders marching toward the unsuspecting city. If they targeted the Heavenly Ghostblade now, with such overwhelming numbers, total defeat was absolutely certain. A confident smirk vanished as 2 frantic subordinates collapsed before him in panic. They fell to their knees, desperately begging him to save their dying captain. Unho's expression darkened. Had the captain's severe wounds finally turned fatal? No, the young leader demanded 300 strikes for his recent battlefield failure. A death sentence for a wounded man. Unho's fury reached boiling point. His eyes burned with killing intent. But the vice commander sensed a trap. The elders were baiting him. They knew the captain could endure the pain. They sought to exploit Unho's loyalty to trigger his downfall within the sect. Unho simmered with rage, but his genius mind accepted the cold logic. The strategist insisted that the captain's iron will could survive the initial onslaught. Reluctantly, Unho yielded to calculation, choosing strategy over his immediate explosive rage. If you were the victim, I would let you rot, Unho coldly threatened. Terrified, the subordinate scrambled to follow, desperate to clear the dangerous misunderstanding. At the grounds, the Black Wolf captain was bound like a common criminal. High above sat the Jade Demon Dragon, watching the scene with arrogant disdain. The captain demanded death, but the leader played a game of fake mercy. A warrior's pride demanded a quick blade rather than this slow, public humiliation. He knew Unho would never subject a loyal subordinate to such disgrace. Enraged, the young leader increased the punishment from 300 to 500. Burning hatred flared in the captain's eyes as the executioners prepared the board. 4 men hauled the heavy cross forward, ready to begin the brutal display. The young leader sneered, eager to see the proud warrior broken like glass. "Seize this!" A thunderous voice shattered the atmosphere as Unho finally arrived. Like a storm, he descended, unleashing a devastating strike that shook the sect. Like and subscribe for more epic Murim strategies and legendary Genius Master content.